Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the REMINGTOM podcast. Hopefully you guys woke up looking for the broccoli because hold everything. Forget Daniel Jones. Forget the NBA Cup. Forget North Korea. Kendrick Lamar has dropped an album. Surprise release today, earlier this afternoon, in the middle of the workday as well. I'm not exactly sure what time we released it. We were in work and it just so happened. I mean, I don't know if we want to say it this early when you start getting on your phone, but we saw that Kendrick Lamar dropped the album, and we were like, this is crazy. Now we have to wait a couple hours to actually listen to this thing. There's no way for the... Can the bartender hook this phone up to the aux, and can we get this thing bumping? I'm sure everybody wants to listen to it anyways. And once we got in the car, we started playing it. We'll get into it, people. It is, of course, another great project by Kendrick Lamar, but I guess, like I said, there is some other stuff going on. Yeah, there's some NFL games this weekend. The NBA Cup is trying. Are they already cutting the snippets into the games? They might be. Now they can actually use the broccoli snippet. It's been released as a song. But the Warriors and the Pelicans are on in the background right now. Oh, excuse me. I know Nets Magic is on as well. Or, sorry, Sixers Nets is on as well. Celtics Wizards, always close first halves in the Celtics Wizards matchup. It's tied at the moment going into halftime. Jaylen Brown with 14. Tatum 2 of 10 from the field, 0-6 from 3. The return of Kuzma, and he's apparently boosted this team. Oh, and Brogdon? How long has Brogdon been back for, chat? Make no mistake, the Wizards are peek our heads and pause every once in a while. They're a catch-a-peek team. They're not really a team you spend a lot of time with, but, you'll get a look every once in a while. I didn't even realize Brogdon was on the Wizards. Brogdon's still in the league, chat. Shout out to Brogdon. Still chugging along. He has appeared in 2 games this year so far. 20 minutes a game. Taking shots. 9 shots in 2 games. He's 3-9 from the field. The return of Brogdon and the return of Kyle Kuzma. Oh, last second shot by the Wizards. Brogdon with some free throws. And Brogdon's going to get a chance, and Brogdon has put in the Wizards with the lead going into halftime, 51-49 against the Celtics. So the Wizards are now contenders in the East with Kuzma and Brogdon returning. And Jordan Poole in a number 3 role, sidekick score role, Brogdon in playmaking, Kuzma on the wing, Poole 2 or 3 from 3 tonight, 8 points. Kispert, I feel like has Kispert been playing this year, chat? How many games has Kispert been in? Maybe they've just been missing all their veterans, chat, relying on their young guys. Okay, Kispert's been in. Shout out to the guy hanging in there, toughing it out with Alex Sarr. One of 4 from the field for the first half. Shout out Alex Sarr. We're fans. We're pro Alex Sarr, but in terms of trying to hang with the Celtics this year, I guess it's working so far. So they're building they're building something in Washington, and we're talking about basketball, chat. But the Sixers and the Nets are close at halftime as well too. Sixers up 3. Maxey playing well. McCain in the starting lineup. Yabusele. I love it. No George, no Embiid. Maybe that's just the way to go, chat. Maybe that is just the way to go. Make no mistake. Like we said, chat, Kendrick dropped an album. It messed up our plans. We were going into work. We were just starting up that episode of the Bill Simmons pod where they were talking about what to do to the Sixers. Pause. I think he was just trying to trash Chris Ryan, shout out, for being a Sixers fan. But like we said, we haven't finished it yet because Kendrick Lamar dropped an album. So I guess we'll get to that. Maybe, I guess, who knows when we'll get to that, because whenever we're tired of listening to the Kendrick Lamar album, we'll start listening to other stuff. Maybe Patrice O'Neal will stay in the rotation, the Black Phillip show. Other than that, it'll be the Kendrick Lamar for a while. But this is maybe the Sixers team that is best suited to approach the rest of the season. The one without Embiid and Paul George, chat. The one without the 2 superstar players. And I know we got a little aggressive on the last one, chat, saying the last stream was Sam saying that Mitchell trade talks after one loss. Apparently 15 games in a row is not enough. But Embiid, I know Embiid just signed the extension. So let's see what the rules are. Can they trade Embiid in the season, chat, after signing him to an extension? I don't know when the deadline is for that type of thing, because there is different deadlines too depending on the type of extension. It's not just when you sign necessarily or whatever. Max players, maybe they have to stick around for at least one season. Who should we trade him for, chat? LeBron? Whose contracts are close? Embiid for LeBron? We're just checking the contracts, chat. Embiid cannot be traded this year. Okay, so Embiid's out for the year, chat, in terms of being traded. So Maury is stuck with Embiid for a second, at least for now. I don't know, chat. It's early in the season. Embiid, he's known to play himself back into shape. We saw him a couple months ago. I feel like at the Olympics he didn't, maybe we have to go back and rewatch the tape, chat. But they were winning the games, and Embiid was having moments offensively. So when you're just in the moment competing, and it's like gold medal games, it's gold medal as well, too. So there's not necessarily anything. The team's not playing other games. You're not looking at this going, oh, future matchups, who are we, whatever. I guess that Serbia game. What was the order, chat? I forget. They played France in the gold medal game. Yeah. So what? That Serbia game, the close game was in the semifinal matchup. But France, like with Wemby, you never know, but it was kind of, Serbia was the one team that we were worried about. So once they got past Serbia in terms of matchups, everything was, chilling once you get past Jokic. But he had moments. They ended up winning. You're just feeling good that Team USA is back, and we're USA is on top for now. At least we're happy about that in basketball. But I didn't feel like he was, you don't feel like watching the Olympics he was going to go into the season and just be on the 2-6 team, and then that performance against the Knicks where it seemed like, it's like, is he just taking it easy? Is he just warming it up, or is there, something really wrong? So I guess we just need to see more games, chat. That's the only way to tell, is we're just going to need to get more time to figure out what's actually going on with Embiid. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be happening anytime soon, because the man is not playing tonight. And the minute the big three gets back together, I believe their first game fully healthy, chat, the first game in which they all played together, Paul George hyperextends his knee. The same knee that he hyperextended earlier in the season. I don't know if he did it in a zesty way again, chat, but obviously the first hyperextension, iconic moment. And he was back to playing after that. And I don't remember exactly what the timeline would be for this one here. Let's see. But that is concerning, chat. Was it the same knee as well, too? I think it was. I don't remember which way he was posed, chat. But I think they said it was the right knee this time. Or no, the left knee this time. So yeah, only expected to miss the next 2 games before they'll reevaluate him in 2 games. I guess they'll take it in small doses, but they can't even get through 1 game with their big 3 guys totally healthy. It's unfortunate situation for Maury, chat. And the one silver lining is, like, we were looking at the Milwaukee Bucks and their win-loss record. Obviously, some of the teams that we projected to be at the top of the East have been near the bottom as we've started off this season. But the Bucks, of course, don't have their pick. The Sixers do have their pick. So now it is an interesting spot, chat, to look at the season and go, what is going on with Embiid here? Let's get a timeline on Embiid and see. Because as much as we love Maxey, and as much as I think, as much stock as we had in Maxey going into the season, I think even with Embiid out, you would want that team to have some level of success. Okay, so yeah, he was just questionable for tonight. day to day with the knee injury right now. I got probably just, day to day all season. I guess he said he's never playing back to backs in his life again. So the man is just probably hour to hour, minute to minute at this point on how he's feeling. You just basically watch every step. If he makes it out onto the arena for the start of the game for the jump ball, then he's listed as active. But how old is he, chat? Is he just turned 30? 30 in 250 days, chat. 251 days. He turns 31 in March 19th. He's just turned 30. I mean, he's not to the point where his body should be totally breaking down. And I know, you start doing historical stuff with certain age markers, but don't we get to move it up a couple of years now? 18 months? Can we move it up 18 months from 1990? Can guys play, hypothetically? And I get, the amount of new talent that we have in the league now and just sometimes the intrigue in new talent. But there is also a safety net with some veteran guys where you know what you're getting. But, maybe guys' careers aren't, maybe there's like the average age per career is not necessarily older than it was in 1990, but, or, 80 or 90 or 2000 or whatever. But, I mean, the guy's capabilities to be able to play are definitely a lot higher. So even at 30, barely just turning 30, in his 30th year of life, chat, I mean, Embiid should not be to the point where he's hobbling around this bad. So, again, once he's back out playing healthy, maybe this season is just a wash. Maybe we have to look to 2025 before we're actually convinced that Embiid is finally done as an NBA player. But, again, chat, they do have their pick. And if you look on Tankathon right now, not only has it just been, kind of a rough start for the Sixers, they have the number 1 overall pick right now. They have the worst record in the league. The Wizards also have 2 wins on this season. They're 2-11, but Philly is 2-12. So Philly's win-loss percentage is a little bit worse. They currently hold the number 1 pick. And make no mistake, Chad, if we're going into the lottery, and right now the top 4 picks in the lottery are Philly, Washington, Utah, and New Orleans, with New Orleans' own pick. Milwaukee, let's see here. Milwaukee's won a couple of games. They've jumped up to, there's a bunch of teams tied here with 6, 8, 9, 10. They have the 10th pick in the draft based on maybe some tiebreakers. But again, it would go to, if they lose their pick regardless of where it's at, it would go to Brooklyn if it doesn't end up in the top 4, top 6, or whatever. So you would have Brooklyn with, and Brooklyn's 15th right now. Brooklyn is in the playoff mix, kind of. So you'd have Brooklyn with 2 lottery-ish picks if their own pick just falls just outside of the lottery. Brooklyn, who would have thought? Cooper Flag on the East Coast in Philly and not New York. But, I mean, that's what's starting to be in play here, Chad. I mean, we're 14. By the end of the week, we'll be 15-ish games into the season. So by the end of the month, we'll be 20 games into the season, a month and a half in. I mean, it wouldn't be impossible for them, I guess, to make a run to the 10 seed just because, again, with the play-in now, you can, 35 wins, especially in the East. Maybe they're finding themselves stumbling in. But if they have, they're at 14 win percentage right now, and maybe, it will obviously go up. Again, there's some pros on this team. There's other young teams as well, too. Maybe teams deciding to go in certain directions. But maybe that's what we're saying here, chat, is what do you do if you're Philly? Do you continue to try to build towards some kind of success this season? And this is kind of an interesting thing for the NFL, too. And the NFL is obviously a little bit later in their season with teams making this kind of decision. So maybe they're a little bit more imminent. And I was just talking to my neighbor about this, who was a Broncos fan as well, too. Maybe we'll mention that a little bit later. Who knows, Chad? Again, this Kendrick album will definitely absorb a lot of time. But, at 15 games into the season, you're 10 games away from being 500 at this point. So I guess, could they go on not even like a 10-game win streak, but could they be like 10-3 over a course and get, but even still, at 10-3, now you're, like 5 games? Like we said, they're 12. I guess they are 10 games, so you'd be 3 games behind 500 at that point. But still, it is starting to become quite a big margin to make up. And if Embiid's just going to be dealing with health stuff all year, and it's going to be that type of season where you're going to be making a real, like, again, they don't, winning a 10 games in a row or 10 games out of 12, like, that's just not a team gets hot. That is starting to get to a streak where it's like you actually do have to turn the corner and become a sustained team. Like, we did see the Grizzlies do that a couple years ago, or they ran off like 12 wins in a row. And I don't know that, and they got hurt a bunch as well too, and that team necessarily didn't formulate into anything in the playoffs. But regardless, it's not like just a team goes on a 10, 12 game win streak, 8 game win streak, and then another 4, and just has like a really good month. Like, you do have to turn into a legit team. Again, Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, the name value is there. Maxey is still the guy as well too. Like, Maxey is the piece where going into the season, we would have figured him to be a franchise cornerstone type guy. So I get, you take these 2 massive assets off the roster that are not just like taking up cap, but again, maybe it's minutes. It's also that cap could be distributed it in different ways to build the team around Maxey if you were doing Maxey as a franchise guy with that. So yeah, you take Embiid and Paul George off the court and throw Maxey out there. It's not like we'll just, all of a sudden become a playoff team. Your team's majorly depleted at that point, but you would still hope that there would, again, be some kind of competitiveness night to night with Maxey as the lead guy. But regardless with what happens this year, we'll still be in on Maxey, even if, we won't necessarily be able to have, like last year going into this season again, like we could be super hyperbolic with it. And because of the numbers and because of some of the playoff stuff, I feel like, people would at least have to listen to you and entertain you. And they couldn't tell you that you're wrong. But now there's some shooting stuff where you're like, okay, if he is the lead guy, is there going to be an efficiency there with him that you would want as a A-plus guy where, I'm afraid to even like say the type of names that we were putting Maxey in the conversation with. And again, it's not like we're moving Maxey into, he's going to be better than this guy. But now it's like, I guess like what are the degrees of separation between Maxey and, young star player A? And I felt like it was really starting to get a lot closer than maybe Maxey was getting the recognition for, where people were like, oh yeah, Maxey's going to develop into a real top tier, like a Kyrie Irving B+ type superstar who can be just an awesome sidekick for any of these number 1 title type guys. And, maybe that is ultimately true. There is some defensive stuff with the guard position where, you have to take it to that Steph level offensively to get there and be the guy that actually wins that title team. But again, we did have a lot of Maxey stock. So you still have Maxey as a cornerstone piece going forward. It's not like this is a disaster. And, Paul George and Embiid, I know Embiid is going to have his trade restrictions for now. And, if you're trying to move him after this season, unfortunately, his trade value is going to be at an all-time low. But, Embiid and Paul George are still assets over the next couple of seasons, regardless of what their play level is at. Again, it's like, could you say it's like a couple months, season and a half from now, and Embiid, it's still the struggling thing, and maybe he's like 22-8. That just does not sound good for Embiid. 40-some% from the field, and you go, oh man, what if we had traded him at his peak MVP days and got real risky and just got this massive generational haul for, a guy at his tier in the league. But again, you're still gonna whatever happens with Paul George and Embiid, those guys are still gonna provide some value to the team, whether or not they're on the roster. So I think long term, we're not talking about how do you fix the Sixers, I think, but it is into the position now where you would look at it and go, okay, like we're saying, is this season a wash? Is this, right away, is this group going to be a contending team for a title? And like we're saying with Milwaukee, Milwaukee, on the other hand, they kind of look at their situation and go, okay, if we're not winning and we're not contending this season, even going forward, that path to build a contender, even if it is to, burn, like even if we burn it down, we're not burning it down to anything good. We have nothing left at that point. But, at least the Sixers have an option to reset if it takes that way. But again, Cooper Flagg now is not just a number 1 overall pick. And I get the hype that we had around Wemby and just who he was as a prospect. Like that type of hype generated for a player, maybe it kind of puts a damper on some of the guys that come after it. Shout out to the History Hyenas pod, what they call a Drexler, when they're doing one of their segments. But Drexler obviously played with Jordan, and any of the guys that play with Jordan, it's like the recognition and the greatness that they could have achieved. It's like Jordan was just taking that from everybody in his era. And Drexler, maybe he's like the 15th best player of all time if he doesn't play with Jordan. But you have to knock him down a couple spots because Jordan was taking all the legacy stuff from back in the day. And I feel like that's kind of like the position that they're in now. But the Sixers, like we're saying, or with that's the position that Cooper Flag is in now with the draft after Wemby is he is the generational hype type guy, but Wemby was such a generational hype type guy that it maybe feels a little bit less for Cooper Flag than it should. But I mean, Cooper Flag is one of those guys that can be an absolute cornerstone to a championship roster, and I still think that like he does have takeover moments, so I definitely should be all in on Cooper Flag in that way. But he also is a little like Chet Holmgren-y in that he's so good at doing all of these other things with the rebounding and the hustle. He's just such a good teammate and team player that when you have a guy like that, it's like, well, he can sacrifice. We can bring in a star shooter who maybe is going to take up a couple more shots. But Cooper Flag could definitely, at this point, you would give him the prospect label as a guy who could be the lead guy on a title team. So that hype around that type of prospect, like it is, I think, something worth considering. And, with what Paolo has become, we'd go back and say, well, yeah, obviously Paolo might have been that type of guy, but like a type of draft like that where, and again, the number one pick was debated even going into the night. So that was even closer than, maybe we're even thinking going back into it. But, I think we're trying to remember as well, too, like me and Sam on this, we were always talking about like Paolo as the number one guy. We kind of had that locked in for a while. So for us, it was a little more decided, but the odds were fluctuating. The reports were really kind of going back and forth even up until the last minute. I think the day of that, maybe I don't want to start, assuming it was Woj, but it was probably Woj that was saying that the Magic were thinking to lean Paolo. But I remember that one going up until, you get a sense. I mean, you get a guy like Wemby, right away, but you also get a sense sometimes even a week or two out. But, that type of draft where you go, okay, we don't necessarily have to have the number one pick. We can still be a bad team. Like there is still a chance where, yeah, you want to maybe be in the top of the draft, but you can still try to be a little bit more focused on trying to win some games in the moment. But this year it's like, okay, where you want to be. And yeah, I mean, Ace Bailey, and there's a bunch of other guys as well too that, I mean, this could definitely be a pretty nice class here for the 2025 group. But I mean, Cooper Flag is definitely the number one guy and definitely the prized asset if you get the chance to get that pick. So it is an interesting spot for the Sixers because they're in pole position right now. So you get these other teams that it's like, and there is some scheduling stuff at this point in the season, but you get these teams where you go, okay, they can control their destiny in terms of winning. Well, I mean, the Sixers right now can control their destiny in terms of losing. They have the advantage. They are the number one team. And again, like there's some strength of schedule tiebreakers in there. So as they maybe play some of the better teams and, lose to them as well too. But as their schedule evens out, maybe some of those tiebreakers don't go as favorably for them. But regardless, from a wins perspective, it's just them and the Wizards right now. So that might be a real tough battle to try to... Is that the Kendrick version of a rap battle? Is trying to beat the Wizards in a tank-off? Pause. But the Wizards haven't got the number one pick in a while, so maybe it's not necessarily harder than you think. And again, you don't necessarily even have to have the number one pick now, too. Again, with the odds being the way that they are, shifted around a little bit. But going into the third quarter, they're definitely trying their best so far tonight. Down 6 with 9:15 left in the third. But McCain as well, too. Another great backcourt piece. You have a backcourt, above starting level, above average potential. Maxey, of course, has all NBA potential. And Jared McCain, could it be an all-star? Could he be whatever? But he'll be an above-average starter if he continues to get better at the rate that he is playing. So you have a really good backcourt potentially forming and, already formed / Jared McCain developing and continuing to grow as a player. But that would also give you a nice little Cooper Flag. And I mean, Cooper Flag, make no mistake, Cooper Flag can definitely play with Embiid and Paul George. So if you could somehow get the league to get the ping pong balls to fall in your favor and get Cooper Flag in Philadelphia. I mean, now Embiid, Flag, and Paul George. Embiid, he could be the third best guy on the team. Max Flag, season 1 asking Flag to go in and be the best player, maybe a little aggressive. But with that supporting cast, and with what we saw him do on the Team USA practice, I don't know if they just need to play all their regular season games and, pick up gyms. But he was going and even playing better than some of the players and the NBA players. The Team USA high-level NBA players. Did they win that game, chat? They might have won that game. I don't remember. But I remember Cooper Flag playing extremely well against the guys. They cannot stop Cam Johnson, though. Not Cam Thomas. They can't stop Cam Thomas either. He's 5 for 11, 16 points. But Cam Johnson, 8 for 12, 6 for 7 from 3 with 22 points. Most of those coming in the first half, too. Pause, chat. Because, again, we're only 9 minutes left in the third quarter. Only 3 minutes into the third quarter. The Wizards still kind of hanging with the Celtics a little bit. Do we have to check that out, chat? We've had the Kendrick album going very, very quietly in the background. Other album reacts. We've gotten some copyright issues, so we just got to keep turning the volume down more notches until it finally works. But we'll make the switch. We're getting into the second half of some of these games. And we've got 3 minutes left in the first half of Pelicans Warriors. I don't know if we mentioned already, but that's the primetime game, the ESPN game right now. So that is the game that we have got going in the back, but not necessarily a primetime lineup for the Pelicans. Of course, they've been dealing with some injuries, but I had to do a double take and blink twice, chat. Like almost the same reaction I had when I opened up Instagram in the middle of a shift and saw that Kendrick dropped an album. But it's like, do a double take. Like, no, he didn't. Because I was like, there's no way I missed that this morning. Like, how would I have not have seen this in any of the feeds? You open Spotify, you open all the socials, you open the internet. Like, this would have been somewhere. We would have seen it. Like, is this real? And the Pelicans had Elfrid Payton in the starting lineup. We were like, wait a second, is this real? There's no way Elfrid Payton's back and playing starting minutes. Who else did they have? Javonte Green, chat? There was somebody else. I can't even remember. Oh, Tice was the other guy that we were like, oh, man. Brandon Ingram next to Tice, Javonte Green, and Elfrid Payton. But I don't know. Maybe we underrated, chat. They are beating the Warriors right now. Or maybe DeAnthony Milton was just more important to the Warriors than we thought. But, on the other hand, for the Warriors, they lose Melton for the season. Obviously, he's been a contributor to playoff-level teams being on the Sixers the last couple of years. A valuable piece to any team that's trying to win. But the Warriors were a team that early in the season, I mean, Kerr's playing all these guys right now. They have maybe the deepest rotation in the league. Maybe just in terms of the guys that can actually log real minutes as well too over the course of a game. So people were like, oh, are they going to need to make a trade? Too many guys. And not just do they need to make a trade, but also could they make a trade? They have a lot of assets now to potentially consolidate and try to get another star around Steph. But you also have this luxury as well too, chat, where you have your 12 guys, you have your couple of guys in the hierarchy with your star and your some defined role players who you're going to be maybe leaning toward in the last couple of minutes. But if you're 4 through 8 or you're 5 through 9, you're 6 through 12, if those are all kind of the same, then again, that can maybe be an issue with some minute stuff, but you also get the luxury of this, where if you have a guy go down, then again, Melton is a little bit maybe better than what we were just saying of a guy that you just go, oh, well, we have another one. He's not just a clone trooper, but you do have a little bit of a luxury to escape this kind of stuff if it happens, because that is another thing that is hard to achieve now in the NBA with the salary cap is depth. And we've talked about that. You kind of have to have one or the other. You have to have depth or star players. And, if you draft well, there are obviously ways to, if you're just a perfect team, I guess you could pull it off. But for the rest of the humans out there, it's not, again, it's not necessarily a pick and choose, but it's kind of a balance of one or the other. So the Warriors kind of leaning into the oh, we have a lot of guys. It's not paying. And not that they would make a trade this early. We're not quite in that. It would have to have been some offseason drama guy that we already known about. And not that it wouldn't be into the season anyways. Not that Embiid didn't have offseason drama. But do they have enough? Oh, I guess, again, they can't get Embiid. Chat. We were gonna start thinking of the trades. We were gonna start cooking up on the trade machine. Embiid to the Warriors. Kuminga, Wiggins, Pajemski. Is that too much, chat? Kuminga and Pods for Embiid? Maybe Moody instead. Lindy Waters. Will they take Lindy Waters? He's been playing some minutes. But Wizards Celtics, chat. Sar getting in the paint, throwing down a dunk. The Wizards playing too fast. Off a score, chat. Kuzma gets right down the field and lays it in. Wow, is this just one of those Celtics games? On the road? Are they not fans of DC? What's going on, chat? The district? Maybe the red court's throwing him off? The pick and roll with Poole and Sar. Oh, it was Keita in the pick and roll. So maybe in the Keita minutes, Alex Sar is going to be a little more productive than some of the other lineups. But hey, take advantage while you can. I don't know if Poole was, making a great look. I don't know. Looked a little telegraphed. I don't know if it was necessarily the quickest decision, but it got there, chat. Great pass. Doing his thing. And they were showing some NBA Cup knockout playoff scenarios. It's like we got the NFL playoffs right now, and we're into that time of the season where, Sam just sent me one today with how the Cowboys can get the 1 seed in the NFC if these 12 different things happen. And they're trying to show those for the NBA Cup. They're like, this team is the 1 seed of this 7 thing. It's like, chat, I don't even know what the groups are. Neither you're going to give me rules about who's getting knocked out and what the playoff seeding is. It's too much to keep up with. I'm just here for the games. I know when it's a different colored court, that means it's more important. And at some point, it'll say championship game on the ESPN thing. And I'll go, oh, yeah, this one's for the banner. The Emeritus banner? Emirates? But Pods, we're running 2 games right now, chat. Which one do we go with? A bunch of close games as well too tonight, chat. We may have some interesting high action fourth quarters here. And the Wizards still tied, chat. Sar again. Is this the beginning of the Sar breakout stretch, chat? And maybe, who knows, getting the veterans in, that is some extra shooting and some playmaking in there with Kuzma and Brogdon. And you're down some guys. You're relying more on your younger players. Maybe you're throwing Sar a couple extra shots just to, grease the wheels a little bit, see what you have. But once you get your guys back, he's kind of reduced into that role. Oh, Missoula's getting heated. Is it time for Sam Cassell to start getting looks as head coach? Because that's another reason that Sam Cassell, that's another reason that coaches will do the technicals, I think, is they'll sometimes work one in a game, get thrown out of a game to fire their team up. And make no mistake, Wizards are up by 3 on the Celtics right now with 4 minutes left in the third. So this has all the makings of a head coach getting tossed type game. But I feel like they'll also do it sometimes to give the assistant some extra shine. Be like, let's get him on the sideline. Let's get him walking around. Let's get these other teams actually seeing what he looks like in that lead role. Because Sam Cassell is, make no mistake, it's high. Undefeated record of unplugging the mic, chat. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We'll be back. 3, 2, 1, chat. 3, 2, 1. Hello, testing. Chat. Oh, we're back. Okay. Sorry about that. Tune in next stream to see if we unplug the mic again. Make no mistake, it will happen. But Gary Payton missing the dunk. Missing the dunk with 11 seconds in the first half. Luckily, Paz was there to clean it up. And I don't know if Javonte Green is still in the starting lineup, chat. Trey Murphy's still out there. Elfrid Payton's still out there. Brandon Ingram, of course. Is that Kendrick Williams, chat? Who is that? James. No, it's not. It's James Robinson Earl. Is Robinson Earl's first name even James? I'm just making stuff up at this point. I don't even know who's playing for the Pelicans, but it doesn't matter in either of these games. Oh, Sarr with the defense on Keita. So Sarr in the first ever Sarr versus this guy where the first ever Sarr outduels whoever will be Alex Sarr outduels Neemias Keita of the Celtics. Oh, I guess they called a foul, chat. Did we get a spilled beer? We've got a mess on the sideline. Sideline of the game, chat. But like we said, chat, the big news of the day, as you all know, as you all are probably listening to right now, because make no mistake, who isn't? But Kendrick Lamar, our boy Kendrick Lamar, has dropped an album. The long teased album, chat? I don't know, maybe we'll get into it, but he dropped GNX, like we said, in just the middle of the day, in the middle of a shift. Had no chance. I don't know if that's the worst time to drop an album, but regardless, maybe he just wanted us to build anticipation over the course of the workday. Is he just rubbing it in, the fact that he can take days off now? But he's earned it. The man is, we're making the case for greatest of all time in his craft after what he was doing in the rap battle this year. And with this album, chat, this was an interesting one because, the anticipation for Mr. Morale and, the anticipation for any of the upcoming projects for these legends at this point is always going to be super great. Like, even, I don't want to say it can, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it is, we always anticipate these legends albums a lot, but it doesn't just, it doesn't just become like fans thing because they do reach new markets. But this one, post beef as well. And like we're saying, we're giving Kendrick that hype of greatest rapper of all time. It did feel like this album had a different level of hype than just, oh, Kendrick is dropping, another album, even if it was like, oh, new developments in his career, all this stuff or whatever. Like the other Drake albums, even if it's as hyped as they've been with like Certified Lover Boy and Honestly Nevermind, and Her Loss was like a major first week album as well too. I think that was the only other album that topped that last year was Utopia in terms of that first week number. But even like with where Drake was at with Certified Lover Boy, like you go through that initial part of his career where it's that that early stage euphoria of a new guy breaking onto the scene. He's dropping all these new great projects. And it's just that anticipation of, waiting for a guy to build up his discography. Like, we need more. Like, Jid is kind of in that spot right now where, he does the 3-album run. That 4th album's kind of just hanging out there. And, the 3, like, his sort of quality of work has been established at this point and all that. And, his fan base, and he's going to get the hype based on just the fact that, oh, again, another artist is dropping another great album, but it's like we don't quite have enough of his music yet. And, again, not these legends like where you have enough of their music, but you do get to a point where it's like, okay, they have had a career at that point. And, we get this with the NBA and the NFL stars as well, too, in the quarterbacks where, you get Brady, you get these great players that are obviously able to continue to sustain and continue to have the runs, but continue to have the run. But, you do get to a point, and maybe that's what we're talking about with the prime. And I don't know if it's that Drake just entered his prime, but even even like with where Jay-Z gets to a certain point in his career where with where 444 is at and that kind of anticipation around that, and where Nas is at with King's Disease and with some of the Magic projects. And, commercially as well. So I guess, Jay-Z commercially is great. Maybe Nas, especially later, it's not necessarily going for, a younger audience. But the fact that he was able to, it's like LeBron able to create like that carrot and that extra motivation for himself every year. And he's always able to challenge himself in all these different ways. And he always continues to have something that they're chasing. Like, that's what it is. It's like these legends at some point, you get to a point where it's like, what are they chasing? And, if Drake, maybe with Certified Lover Boy and Honestly Never, and with all these projects that he's dropped recently, if maybe those projects are a little more consistent and I guess, he's talked about what he's wanted to from the scope of an album, not necessarily just going for the conciseness in the project, but going for escape and trying to give, reach a large majority of his fans. And, he has fans of all different types of aspects of his music. So he's trying to service all that. But if he was trying to build out that album legacy and really trying to, focus on that sort of no skip type discography that is, I don't want to say like the only thing that, it's not obviously the only element of the GOAT picture, because what Drake's been able to do commercially is able to put him up in that status just as well as almost just as good as anything that he's done. But if he had focused more on that, then maybe he's even able to boost his all-time status maybe even a little bit more. But it's still like, okay, Drake is still able to produce at a great level, but maybe it's not peak Drake. And, J. Cole is an interesting one too, because it's like, has he found sort of a new second life here with the feature runs and, with the offseason? Who knows what we'll get with the fall off. But, with like where Tyler is at right now, it's like, okay, Tyler is at the peak of his powers. Travis is at the peak of his powers. Like, the kids love these guys. The anticipation for this music is this guy is like a music making force and in the prime of his career, and every album it's like, oh, is he going to continue to climb the ladder of greatness? Like we're saying, Kendrick has already kind of been at that status. And even going into the beef, even going into this year, like prior to the beef, I think Billboard dropped a list where they had him as the number 2 rapper of all time. Like we're saying, that consistency, every project has been amazing. He has the Grammys and the commercial success. Like he checks all the boxes. So it's not that like, oh, this album can only be, detrimental to him or whatever if it doesn't work. Like, it's not like, oh, he's only risking it with these projects going forward. But if he didn't have the rap beef and it was just, oh, Kendrick is dropping another album, it would be definitely a great album, but the moment around it obviously would be a little bit less. And I think what that would do for Kendrick's legacy would not be able to give him the boost if this album was as good as, it is, and, as good as it potentially was as well, too, going into the drop of it. And, even again, like if you compare it to where J. Cole is at with his upcoming album and maybe, with wherever Drake would be at with his upcoming album or all these other ones, like this was kind of the one where it's like, okay, if Kendrick drops another classic, and again, not that he wouldn't, like the only track record we have is of Kendrick dropping these studio albums is that they're going to be amazing projects. But, if he is really able to up the level again, then solidifies his status as the greatest rapper of all time. It's too strong, obviously, because we're still a little ways away from that. Like some other guys have done, the scope of some careers might just be a little too much. You'd have to maybe look at the peaks of a couple others too, and it just make the case. But there is like a real, oh, now this is like, that LeBron post run, that Brady post run, where really the guys start to separate themselves after their prime. Because again, like the nostalgia factor around early days and early runs and all that stuff may be just a little too strong compared to, as time goes on. But as you continue to give quality and as you continue to show, your artistic evolution as well too, and continue to bring, new subjects to light, new different types of sounds in your projects, that can help solidify. Like I think what Nas has been able to do with the last couple of King's Disease projects and all this stuff has only really helped. I mean, you have maybe the greatest album of all time in Illmatic, and, you know, a really strong discography outside of that. Some, you know, Grammy noms there in the mid to late 2010s, or mid to late 2000s. Was Life is Good 2012, so yeah, early 2010s. But the Kendrick peak was already peak for peak with these other guys, and now it's like building onto that legacy and building onto that longevity. And this was the first kind of step to that. And this as well, too, being the first album after the Mr. Morales album, which was an album about therapy, and it's this like album where he's like self-discovery and, you know, really trying to like find himself. And it seems like he's, you know, really conflicted and really going through a lot. And the tone for this album dropping right after that kind of album is really cool as well, because this album is, you know, obviously Kendrick post beef, but, you know, even putting that aside, and it may be hard to, because it feels like this album is very much connected to that. But, you know, just the themes of him being on top and sort of the triumphant nature of this album, and him sort of, you know, looking at the sacrifices he's made, the journey that he's had, and, you know, really, you know, being able to appreciate his success in a real way and sort of respect what he's been able to do and be like, hey, yeah, I've definitely earned everything that I have and everything that I'm going to try to continue to achieve. And that being the album, like right after the therapy album, it's like really cool. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like you went to therapy, you learned, and now you're feeling like it actually kind of worked and it's helping a little bit. And this album as well, too, I think is his shortest album in terms of both track list and time as well, too. I guess, you know, you start going back into the mixtape days. I wouldn't know like the lengths of all those projects, but I know even like Overly Dedicated, I think basically everything he's done has been 55 and up. And I know like Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, like those are, you know, an hour, maybe an hour 10 plus. But this one's 44 minutes, 12 tracks. And Mr. Morale too, I think the one thing that people might say for it is there's like is there like a couple of tracks in there where maybe they're like non-essential for your playlist. And it's kind of funny that that's in the therapy album too as well too, where it's like this long sort of rambling album and it's in all over the place and all these different directions, and it's like, okay, maybe we're going on a little bit too much here. But again, after the therapy album, it's like triumphant, we're on top, it's short, it's concise, we're to the point, and it feels like everything that he was going through in Mr. Morale really turned around here with GNX. But apologies to everybody that just dropped music recently, because to Playboy Cardi, like I honestly don't, to Playboy Cardi, there's some other stuff, it doesn't even matter. Like Kendrick is the only thing that is absorbing the airwaves right now. The album has been totally on repeat a bunch right now. In the first track as well too, Whacked Out Murals, was this again very sort of triumphant chorusy type start to the album. And he mentions murals, he starts mentioning like Europe's and stuff as well too, and I think the whole tone of the track was like very setting, because I know he's probably talking about like, you know, murals in Compton and stuff. But when he was saying murals, and again with like the chorusy of the track, and then he said Europe as well too, it was like placing you in like castles and chapels and all that kind of stuff. So that was like, again, like after that Mr. Morale, like that very triumphant sound to start off the album was crazy. But boy, oh boy, did he go off in this song, chat. And that's what I was saying. It's going to be hard to separate this song from the beef, because, you know, I would kind of like to know, and you would like to know, you know, how every album is made. Every great album is made. But I would like to know how this one was put together, because I know, you know, reading the Wikipedia page about it, reading some of the backstory about it, there is, and, you know, just remembering the press and stuff that he's done as well, too. Like, he's been teasing, you know, a project for a while now, I think even before the beef started, but a project centered around the GNX as well too. Feels like that has maybe, you know, he's been teasing stuff about that for more than just, the last several months when this stuff has really popped off. But going through should we just go through the lyrics on this one, chat? I mean, we were definitely combing through the Genius and all the stuff for it as soon as it dropped, doing our best to keep up. You always end up like 4 songs behind. You're like, wait, the album is already done and I'm halfway through the Genius annotations on the first song. But again, the main thing, responding to a lot of the events that had unfolded over the summer, and I think a lot of that is in the second verse. Yeah, when he says, riding in my GNX with Anita Baker in the tape deck, it's gonna be a sweet love. F apologies, I want to see y'all geeked up. Don't acknowledge me, then maybe we can say it's fair. Take it to the internet, and I'm gonna take it there. And we all know, chat, F apologies. What apologies? Maybe could be related to Kendrick. It's obviously about J. Cole, chat. And I know, I mean, it was definitely controversial at the time when J. Cole did the apology. But I feel like in the moment, even with it being controversial, people thought that it would still be well received by Kendrick. At least to some degree. Like, it was like, okay, maybe he's not, totally exempt from a shot or two, but it's like, he's not going to get the track. And maybe he was never going to. Like, it would seem like, obviously, as we all know at this point, we all know who the victim of Kendrick's, in Kendrick's sights were this whole time. But, maybe he saved himself from any sort of extra trouble from Kendrick. And maybe Kendrick, and it's not just maybe, but like Kendrick is the type of guy where even if he would, I think, see Cole sort of in an okay light, maybe he would say something on a song. I mean, he would lie in his bars. I was going to say he wouldn't lie in his, Kendrick does seem like an authentic guy. He's trying to come from a truthful perspective, but he did say on America Has a Problem with Beyonce that truthfully he'd be lying in his rap songs. So he could definitely, like we're saying, see Cole and go, okay, yeah, I'm cool with that guy. Like, I'm not going to like drop the, it is what it is. But in the song and in the actual battle, in the course of, going for this legacy stuff, like Kendrick has never backed down and Kendrick has never been afraid. So for him to drop a bar like that in a song, like we're saying, we would not be, shocked to see something like that in there. But it does, I think, raise an interesting sort of situation for Cole because, what is the point of actually doing the apology? Now, if you're Cole, of course, you go, well, I do the apology because it's what I feel is, I feel like this is actually the way I need to move and the way I need to clear my conscience, and this is going to help me, get through life the best way possible. Like, this is actually how I want to live my life. I don't want to be a part of any of this stuff. Or do you do it because, not that you're maybe scared or anything like that. I don't think Cole is necessarily scared of anybody, but is that it's going to be a mess. Do you want to get in a messy situation? Again, it's not, are you scared to get in this situation? Do you want to involve yourself in a messy situation? Or do you want to just go ahead and try to get it over with and get out clean and, go about your day? Because even Drake is not scared of anybody. Of course, Drake has actually gone out and dropped tracks and responded to people and engaged in these battles. Like, Drake has never backed down, and well, I guess we can't say never. We'd have to go through all the stuff. But, Drake has definitely stepped up to the occasion more than once. And it was from a numbers standpoint, from all that stuff, like, at the end of the day, the man is still going to be fun. Like, the man is still on the top of the game. And I think in terms of streaming, he's still been the most streamed rapper for every month of the year. I guess November with the Kendrick album, maybe Kendrick finally actually takes that from him. But I guess that's still even impressive. It didn't even dawn on me, too, when I saw that stat. Because I saw that stat about a month ago where maybe it was when they released the October. I guess it was probably when they released the October rankings when they were like, oh, yeah, Drake continues to be shout out Rap TV. They were like, Drake continues to be the most streamed artist of this year in every month. And I guess that would include the months in which those Kendrick diss tracks dropped. So Drake, even in that time, when everybody was bumping Kendrick and he was the number one hot guy and, still is the number one guy. Hot guy, of course, pause, always looks good on the magazine covers. But even when Kendrick was really at his peak in the summer, Drake was still able to outpace him from a total standpoint and all the streaming stuff. So it's like, at the end of the day, Drake is still okay. But again, it's a messy situation. So maybe even a little more than messy at sometimes. But, does Cole want to involve himself in a messy situation? Or is this actually like, oh, I do feel like terribly bad and in my heart, like, I just can't believe I said these things. Like, I just don't want to move this, like, truthfully, he's telling the truth in his rap songs and he doesn't want to try to, move this type of way. Who knows? But, if Kendrick is not accepting the apology, do you have to actually just now kind of go, okay? And I don't know if he needs to address it on the fall off. Maybe the fall off he dropped Port Antonio. Maybe he just needs to say, maybe that was him saying his piece and he's just going to move on and the fall off is going to be its own thing. But if he's mentioned, he may need to actually mention something about the situation. And I don't know if he does the double take, walk back the apology, because, again, we can't tell J. Cole how to feel, but maybe, maybe there does need to be like oh, this is how I'm feeling now that this is kind of how this has turned out. And it's like, you know what? Maybe at the end of the day, I am the greatest rapper of all time, and I don't apologize for that. And, maybe I would apologize for being critical in these type of ways, but I don't apologize for, me trying to achieve the throne. And, I don't know what the angle is on all this stuff, but I mean, Kendrick is still always played the card of, I'm the greatest and I will, I'll take out whoever is in my way to try to get there. And I'll say whatever I need to on the song. I'll attack anybody. I'll go bar for bar with anybody. It does not matter. I am on the quest to be the greatest and, do and produce the type of music that he wants to produce. And you do. I mean, it's just a fact at some point you do need to go. I guess I don't know if it's a fact, but you do. I think at least in this situation, Cole does need to go. Does he need to get in a rap battle with Kendrick Lamar, chat, in order to outpace him as the greatest rapper of all time? Because again, with GNX, chat, I mean, this album there's not a miss on this album. I don't want to, after, one day, after a couple hours of listening, it just start going, okay, this is its spot in the year-end ranking, and it's just what it is, because, again, Schoolboy Q dropped an incredible project this year, Blue Lips, the Tyler album. There's, there's several albums where it's like this, the top tier that I have right now for what I'm trying to kind of work through and just make sure that I'm looking at it in all the different right directions is a very strong top tier. But I mean, again, even when we're talking about with innovating sounds, like this is a different sounding album from Mr. Morale and a little bit from his different albums as well too. Like this one doesn't really have, and I'm not saying this in a disparaging way, but like I just, in a lack of a better way to describe it, like the longer sort of storytelling cuts that maybe the slower, messagey type songs, like Fear on like a Fear song, or you start going to Good Kid, Mad City, you go maybe like Good Kid's not like a song that a ton of people revisit, Real as well too. But this song is like all, I don't know if it's like all hits, but it's all of those like what, shout out to DJ Head. DJ Head calls them slaps. It's all, and even a song like Luther is like an aux song in that late night vibey type of way. So every song on here is almost like aux song, play with your friends, have a good time. Like there's bars, everything's turned up. There's a lot of energy and a lot of fun. And, I get he's always given you, a good diverse mix of sounds within his album, but to go like that heavy with the beats for this one was, and again, 12 songs, maybe he was just like, we don't need those anymore after therapy. We got it all off our chest, or maybe he just continued to get it off his chest in the 12 tracks that are here. But I mean, especially with the year that Kendrick Lamar has had, it's going to be hard to keep this album out of a certain spot on that year-end list. But it did also make me, again, every album that drops this year makes me revisit Blue Lips and go, yeah, I think Schoolboy Q really did drop. I don't even know what the right word for it is, Chad. It's not, classic, iconic, and replayable just doesn't seem like it's not quite strong enough. Classic is like, I feel like classic is, we're talking about the list at that point. What do you want to narrow the list down to? Desert Island Situations. But iconic, Blue Lips is an iconic album. Did it have, it's not going to have a moment like this GNX album did. But from a quality standpoint, revisiting it start to finish, the hits as well too, and the different cuts that you get off of that song, I think go toe to toe with, of course, any album that have been dropped this year. But I mean, Kendrick is, of course, on top of the game right now. And he brings in Jack Antonoff as well, too. So, Taylor Swift has been able to have success in the NFL. I don't know if he thinks, doing the Super Bowl this year at the halftime, he just needs to lock in the NFL fandom. Maybe Taylor Swift hasn't done well with the NFL, though. The actual NFL, it's conflicted, chat, because make no mistake, some of the NFL fans not into it, but then, I mean, all the eyeballs that are into it because of it, the league is definitely happy about that. So, I mean, maybe Kendrick is trying to grab a few of those eyeballs with some of the sounds that he's producing, bringing in Antoff. But Soundwave as well, too. Like, of course, Kendrick is at the top of the game as a rapper. And, I think, especially after this album as well, too, after the year he's had, he's at the type of moment where he's like everybody's favorite rapper. And, I feel like people are more consistent with like, oh, this guy is maybe my favorite than maybe we'd give people credit for. But, just that in the moment, who is everybody bumping? Like, I mean, this is the year of Drake, of course. Everybody, like we just said, from a number standpoint. But, Kendrick has been the hot guy right now. He's everybody's favorite rapper. And to drop the banger song, to drop the banger album, and to get the new fans as well, too, I think is a real level up for him. Like, this album feels like a level up in a way, chat. And not, again, from, like, I don't know where this, like, his discography is so strong. I don't know where this ranks. Like, there's so much big picture stuff that you still have to figure out, a day out with this album. But it does feel like the fact that he was able to deliver on the hype of not just another album, but the hype of an album in the midst of the talk of him being the greatest rapper of all time, as we're currently doing post that beef. And, him being in that mix as well, too. And it's like, oh, now he's clearly looking at that spot. And every project that he's dropping is another step toward that. I mean, that's just a crazy spot to be in, chat. And, it's not that he would not be, if an album didn't hit the same way, it's not like it would just totally throw him off and he would still not be on track to get there. But it's like we're saying, he's staring at that spot now. And I guess it's how quickly can he get there? How fast, how quickly is it? Because it's like Mahomes right now with Brady, right? Where, I mean, we know Mahomes is on track. So I guess we're just waiting for it to happen. We're like, is he going to play long enough? How long does it actually have to happen? If he pulls off the three-peat at this point, then, what conversation do we actually have to have at that point? No quarterback in NFL history has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row. It's the most important achievement that a quarterback can have. And he would do something for the first time that no one has ever done, even Brady. Just be a really interesting spot. So it's like, as the perfection continues for Kendrick Lamar, it's like, okay, at what point does just kind of the unanimous culture conversation kind of just gravitate toward he is the guy? Because that is the thing as well, too. It's never, there's not just I guess there will be a list. It's like one of them, are those publications. Like, yeah, Billboard, a couple of them could Rolling Stones, like, they'll be one of them that finally drops the list at some point, maybe even after an album or two in the future. But the list will be out there. Kendrick Lamar will be on the number one spot. But just because that publication doesn't do it, obvious when that happens, it won't mean that it will necessarily be readily accepted by everybody. But it's, when does that guy kind of get into that stage where it becomes readily accepted? Like, Nas is the type of guy, like, yeah, maybe not everybody has Nas in their number one spot, but everybody, I think, gets Nas in the number one spot. Like, everybody gets Jay-Z in the number one spot. Tupac, Biggie, Eminem, like those, the guys that are all at the top of the list, like making the case for it. And, and that's what we're saying. Everybody's individual list would be different. Like, maybe, 50 Cent outplaces somebody on somebody's list that we just named that somebody would have. Like, who knows? Maybe somebody's like, oh, I have 50 Cent over Jay-Z or whatever. Like, it would be like individual spots, but, and, maybe somebody has 50 Cent as their greatest rapper of all time. That's awesome. Like, 50 Cent is one of the best, so we're not going to complain about that list. But, I guess, are we thinking of Nephew Kyle? I guess the one thing we did listen to in the middle of the Kendrick Lamar album was Life Advice. So shout out to Life Advice, going toe for toe with Kendrick Lamar. But, if Nephew Kyle wants to put 50 Cent as the greatest rapper of all time, it is what it is. But those guys where you just ask somebody and it's like, okay, maybe you have your guy, but I mean, you're going to tell me Eminem's not the greatest rapper of all time? You're going to tell me that Biggie is not the greatest rapper of all time? Then you're like, well, I'm not really arguing at that point. It's just personal preference. It's like, when will Kendrick cross that line? And everybody, you can kind of just go and be like, yeah, but also you could have Kendrick as your number one rapper, right? And they'd be like, yeah, you're probably right. The discography, it's too stacked. He had the hits, he had the big moments. He beat the guy in the rap beef. Like, he did all the things. Because, like, and maybe and the Drake fans will just always be the Drake fans. Like, it is what it is. But, there are still people that I think hold, and they, the legends are the legends. I guess it is really an era thing as well, too. But I think, you start looking at some of the 90s guys, like Pac and Big, and, you start looking at Nas as well, too. And you start looking at, and not that, again, commercial, like, not all these pieces are everything, but Kendrick actually does have all the pieces. And I think this album as well, too, well, hyperbole is strong here right now, chat. The album just dropped. We're really in a good mood. But, he's the Luther song with SZA, him melodically on that song might be one of his best melodic performances. And, of course, the dynamic range of rapping performances he's going to give you is going to be awesome. So it's like, you mix that melodic performance in there, and it might be, the best, like, he's sounded on an album in any of his albums. And, now he's got, like, it's like the version of Steph where it's like, okay, 16 Steph is maybe like the peak version of Steph in terms of the production that we've seen. But that 22 Steph in terms of the moves that he had and the IQ and his understanding of the game and where he was at in his career, like, maybe that's actually the step you would take. Like, yeah, maybe the peak Kendrick Lamar was Good Kid, Mad City to Pimp a Butterfly. Like, maybe that era is just, maybe the two greatest album run of all time. Like, you could make whatever case you want for that era of Kendrick Lamar, but it's like, this version of Kendrick right now, like, has every piece to the puzzle that you could want to be the greatest rapper of all time. There's, like, literally nothing that he's missing. And the cadence is there, all the dynamic, like we're saying, he can give you and I don't want to say that he has he's not that he has the widest variety, all this stuff. It's just he has all the pieces. He has the game. I mean, he's like, I don't know, is Kevin Durant the right comparison, chat? It's funny because, like, Paul George is the Brandon Miller GOAT, who's like the guy that like has all the pieces where you're like, oh, he shoots, he playmakes, he plays on the ball, he plays off the ball, he plays defense, he rebounds, he's big, he can guard multiple positions. Like, there's nothing really that Paul George can't do, but, Paul George is not one of the, whatever greatest players of all time. Like, no disrespect to Paul George, but there's not, I guess LeBron is, LeBron's obviously do whatever. Like, all the guys can do everything, but, you wouldn't classify LeBron as a 3-point shooter. You wouldn't say, oh, he's a 3-and-D guy who is a playmaker who can, rebound and do all the different stuff. Like, he's a point guard who is built like a forward, who can get downhill and physically dominate anybody and, do all the things. Like Magic, Jordan could do everything, but still it's like the shooting and all that stuff. Steph, he's not going to guard all the positions. Durant is maybe the guy where it's like he could play on the ball, he can play off the ball, he can create for himself, some of the defensive stuff, but there is a little with the defensive stuff sometimes, but maybe Durant, Kendrick is a little like, he is a little Durant-ish. There is a good comparison there where you look at the packages that they provide and you go, oh yeah, it's everything that you'd want for them to be the GOAT, but Durant, unfortunately, has not had the consistency when it comes to the, same projects. I don't know, Kendrick working with one producer a lot. KD's just worked with too many producers over the course of his career. He needs to develop a much more consistent sound. And KD, when did he drop his song, chat? What's that song Durant dropped? I forgot about that. What's that called? He has bars on there, chat. Scared Money? Oh yeah, that was from this year. That was from February. Yeah, we've come a long way in music, chat. It's been a busy year. Nobody remembers Kevin Durant dropping bars with Staley in February, but it happens. Scared Money. If it's not on your playlist, I don't know why it wouldn't be, but go ahead and add it in if you do. But if it's not there yet, but Kendrick really, like we're saying, leveled up. I think is really now on his way, and it's just a matter of time, chat, until he gets to that spot. But I like we're saying with Luther, that melodic cut with SZA, chat, is absolutely incredible. And the first 3 songs off the album, and we've said it before, but as J. Cole for the most part up until this year, chat, has been our number one guy the whole time. J. Cole's always been the guy that we'll stand for. But when we're listening to these other guys and kind of seeing of the all-time great stuff, like, it's all in the perspective of like, what can J. Cole do to climb the rankings and get as high on the all-time list as he possibly can? So this album, of course, is like the number one album competitor to the Fall Off. Of course you got who knows where the Fall Off will actually end up on a list of the albums in its Grammy cycle. Say it drops in this cycle, like we're saying, you've also got like Chromacopia in there, and who knows what else we'll end up getting from the rumored stuff. But who knows where it actually ends up landing. But Kendrick is obviously the number one guy, the number one competitor, like we're saying, in that spot. So it's like listening to this album just going, okay, is this going to be something that the Fall Off can even compete with? Like, is there even going to stand a chance? Because Mr. Morale versus the off season, like, you can definitely, if you're saying if Mr. Morale is better, we're not going to argue with you. But I think you can definitely make the case for the off season over Mr. Morale. You can at least make the case for that one, chat. But you start going like Section 80 versus the what's the name of his first album, chat? Not Born Sinner, but Lights Out, chat. What are we looking at? I can only think of the songs off the album. Cold World? Let me look here, chat. Yeah, Sideline Story. Jeez, chat, I was blanking. But you go Sideline Story versus Section 80. You go, Born Sinner versus Good Kid, Mad City. You go To Pimp a Butterfly versus Forest Hills Drive. And, Forest Hills Drive is a great album, and you could put that one, I could be as hyperbolic on the all-time list with that one as I want. There's, probably not going to find a way to sneak it over To Pimp a Butterfly. You've got, are we going to count Revenge of the Dreamers, chat? But, KOD, For Your Eyes Only, were not as well received in the moment. And I don't think maybe did as commercially kind of the breakthrough stuff that he did with the other ones. Had some of the same moments. They're very, very good, of course. But maybe KOD. For Your Eyes Only was pretty big, chat. I think For Your Eyes Only did a massive number, actually. Is that his biggest album? I could be wrong, Chad. Let me look here. Actually, no, it might still be 2014, but let's see. I have a number in my head for this one, but I don't know if I'm just being hyperbolic or if I've actually got it real here. Why is it not coming up, chat? Do we need to spell it with a Z? Oh, because we need to. Wikipedia is so picky, chat. Here we go. For your eyes only. Okay, it did. First week. Yeah, it did 363 its first week. I was going to say 400, but I was going to say, is it in the 400-ish? But yes, 363 its first week for For Your Eyes Only. Forest Hills Drive, not the live album, did that one do 400? I think that one was still 300. 353. And KOD did, let's see here. KOD first week, 2018, had a number of 397. Okay, chat. So yeah, I was gonna say, as I said, those albums weren't as big. I guess I was thinking more the sort of just the general reception around it. But then as I was thinking, I was like, no, wait a second. Those numbers were actually pretty massive. And then the off season was in 2021, and that one got 282 in its first week, dropping off a little bit from the other ones. But like we're saying, that's kind of the offseason Mr. Morale. You kind of go, okay, there's at least a case there. Can there be another one where you go, there's a case for the Fall Off versus GNX? And of course, the Fall Off hasn't dropped yet. J. Cole could swoop in with a great project and absolutely crush it and just drop undeniably a great album. We're not putting it past our guy. But make no mistake, like we're saying, the bar has been raised. And Kendrick has definitely, I mean, you know, again, I don't know if we want to start giving up the list, but he's dropped an incredible project in terms of the scale of this year. And I think in terms of scale of recently, are you guys thinking that this one is better than Mr. Morale, chat? Where are you putting this? Because, I mean, just from my own nostalgia factor, I don't even know if I want to put this over Good Kid to Pimp or, you know, any of the other ones. But, you know, even Sex and 80, chat, I'll stand for. It's, of course, nostalgic, iconic. It's our childhood right there, chat. But the consistency of this album and, you know, the conciseness of it and the fact that, like we're saying, he's still able to give you a good range of performances, but also the lyricism as well, too, chat. I mean, his storytelling has always been so good in the other, all of his songwriting and, you know, his lyricism, obviously, like we're saying, he's as strong in the game as any of these traits, as you want to say. But this sort of commenting that he's doing as well, too, is a little bit different than maybe what we've seen in the past, because like we're saying, it has been some storytelling cuts and, you know, talking a lot about his life and his childhood and his upbringing and reflecting on that. I mean, you know, of course, Good Kid, Mad City is, you know, a story about that time. But this one being, you know, kind of about the state of where he's at now, kind of looking ahead to, like we're talking about the state of the game, and just kind of being more in the moment at the end of his journey is definitely a new look for him, because he has definitely, like we're saying, yeah, been looking back a lot and just kind of reflecting and, you know, kind of processing everything. Make no mistake, the man has, you know, had a lot to process. So I'm sure it's taken some time, but this is sort of a new spin for the type of, you know, personal subject matter that he's getting into, at least in some of these songs, in some sense. And to be honest, chat, I don't know if we want to go tinfoil hat. You know, we do want to enjoy the album, but I saw this floating around online a little bit as well too. So I was like, okay, if it's not just me thinking it, then maybe there is something to it. But I do wonder, like we're saying, what went into this project? Like, what is this project really, Chad? Is this the album? Because like I was saying, I want to enjoy this as the album and give it the moment that, I mean, it's going to have the moment. It's going to be probably, I can't imagine this is not the #1 album of the year. Like we're saying, what's that Days Before Rodeo number? Because that is actually the #1 album of the year, even though it dropped 10 years ago. But its first week number was like maybe that was also 360 something. So maybe Kendrick will drop over the 400 mark this year. I would not be shocked if this album dropped. If Tyler got 300 on a short week, can Kendrick get 400 on, you know, only a couple hours behind everybody? And maybe 400 is, you know, shooting low a little bit too, chat. Maybe it goes way up. But I guess Utopia didn't even get to 500 either. So, man, chat, if Kendrick breaks 500 over Utopia, that would be absolutely incredible. Because in some way, the rollout for this, you know, just as intense with the diss tracks and all that stuff, but for the actual project itself, I mean, that Utopia hype was hard to face. So, I mean, we knew we were hyped up for this one, but also not knowing that we were getting it today, which does make me, again, scratch my head a little bit of, oh, when Kendrick is, so this album that Kendrick was just hyping us up for this whole time, he just dropped it. I don't even know, chat, like the trailer and the videos on YouTube are all posted at the same time. I don't know what the timing difference is between when he gave us any kind of insight and versus when he actually dropped the album. But the fact that it's a surprise drop, the fact that, again, it doesn't have any of those, like, sort of old school-y, storytelling-y type stuff. Like, it is a lot of sort of in the moment, a lot about the beef, a lot about him being on top and him, you know, sort of wearing that crown as the currently greatest rapper. Like, I do wonder if this is not like well, I guess it would be sort of like some pre-album type, some like might delete later type ordeal. Like, and it's labeled on, you know, Wikipedia. It's online right now. It's called an album. It's being given that credit, but I do wonder if it's that kind of approach to this, where it's that project before the project, because also dropping it before the Super Bowl, that part is a little strange, chat. And I guess maybe not strange is the right word, because again, like, this album is going to be crazy for Kendrick. Like, regardless of when it drops, the man is going to do well on it. Make no mistake. Maybe he's like, I'm ready to do well financially now. Let's go ahead and get this out there. But I mean, once he does the Super Bowl, chat, and we all know that PG Lang creatively is a great force right now, and they're going to put together a great show behind the fact that Kendrick is set is, you know, like we're saying, he's got one of the most perfect discographies in hip hop. So it'd be hard for him to even pick a set that would be bad, if that would, you know, even be possible for some of the artists that they would choose. But you get what we're saying. Like, there's really no direction that he can go in this show where it's not going to be a fantastic halftime show. The boost that he's going to get after that, like, of course you're going to want to drop an album after having that kind of rollout for it. And that would also just seem like the perfect piece for that kind of project. So I honestly wouldn't be totally shocked if this was not the album. And I don't know if I'm 80-20 is a little heavy, chat. I don't know if it's maybe like 85-15, 90-10. But there is definitely like a decent little chunk of me that's like, we might be getting an album after the Super Bowl still. Like, there might be something else on the horizon. And that is also a super scary thought as well. Because like we're saying, the project that this is, I mean, if you're just, you know, I guess if we're, you know, doing the J. Cole and Kendrick comparison, if you're putting this up against Might Delete Later, you know, as much as we love Might Delete Later, like, it's, you know, Kendrick did it again. And My Delete Later is, a mixtape. It's that compilation thing. It's, some loosies that I was dropping out there, and maybe some other cuts as well too. Some cuts that aren't there anymore, but some stuff to get us ready for the fall off and hold us over until then. So it's not even that Kendrick has to hold us over at that point. Like, it's still been just like 2 years since he dropped that last album, and we had a bunch of new music from him from this year. So he could have just waited until January or I guess Super Bowl in February, but he could have waited till March or whenever to release the album. But the fact that he's just going to drop this now and then maybe drop something then and just have all this great music and continue to have this run is, again, really scary from the other rappers trying to build up that legacy standpoint, because it could really start getting ugly if he drops 2 just banger projects like 6 months apart. And even with this project, chat, the 2024 year that he is staring at is, it might be the greatest year in hip hop history, chat. And you guys can definitely let us know what you think and give us some other options for, who might be on that list. And, I was also thinking, like, you could go calendar years, obviously, from January to December, but, like what 12-month stretch as well, too, maybe a guy had where it was, maybe on par with what Kendrick is doing right now. Because when I was just going through and thinking, like, straight up calendar years, the first one that popped into my mind was, 2002 Eminem, when he drops the Eminem Show, and he has 8 Mile released that year, and the 8 Mile soundtrack also goes #1 on Billboard charts. So 2 #1 albums, and I don't know, was 8 Mile, and I don't know if that was a #1 movie. I assume it was. Eminem drops #1 hits, but had the film, had the movies, had already sort of risen through the hip hop scene at that point, winning the Grammys with the Marshall Mathers LP and the Slim Shady LP and all that different stuff. You have, Lil Wayne, any of those early Lil Wayne years with the mixtapes and the albums and all that stuff. I know, like, 2005 he drops the Carter 2 and Dedication mixtape, but I do also know that, like, I think Shea Serrano says that, like, 2008 to 2011. And I think that's, like, pretty, there's, like, an era in there where everybody's like, oh, yeah, Lil Wayne was absolutely the guy. So, I don't know if one of his better years would have been in that mix as well, too, with the Carter 3 in that run. And then, Kanye, where it's, like, 2010, he's dropping Dark Twisted Fantasy. He's dropping Watch the Thrones. He's got all the projects in 2018 where he's dropping Daytona and Kids See Ghosts and Nasir and does he drop the Ye album in there as well too with Ghost Town on it? 2018 was stacked for Kanye. He's got 2005 he produces B and Late Registration. So there have been other years musically where guys have done, a ton of stuff. I guess, if you want to say 96 Tupac, where he drops All Eyes on Me, and then Don Killuminati, and what movie dropped in 96 as well too that he's in, chat? I think it was was it Above the Rim? No, Above the Rim was 94. What Tupac movie was 96 with both of those albums? Was it Juice was 92? Yeah, Above the Rim 94. 1996 would have been, let's see here. We don't want his music video or filmography. We want his movies. Bullet. So he dropped Bullet, All Eyes on Me, and Don Killuminati, all in 1996. But yeah, unfortunately, we all know Tupac got shot in 96. So I don't know if we want to start charting that one up as, greatest year in hip hop history. So I guess, if there's like a 12-month stretch, maybe that somebody else is thinking, because I guess, Kendrick is going to perform the Super Bowl in January or I don't know why we keep seeing the Super Bowls in January, chat, in February of 2025. But when did Like That actually drop? Was that March, May, April? That was over the spring. Yeah, March 22nd. So say he drops the album early March and yeah, does the Super Bowl performance in February. I mean, from like that to the potential album post Super Bowl, I mean, that would have to be the best 12-month stretch for anybody in hip hop. And the best rise in hip hop for any 12-month stretch. Because again, we already had Kendrick sort of at the top of the game from, like a spiritual standpoint, from as an artist. This guy is the number 2 sort of artist of all the rappers of all time. And yeah, he has the commercial success as well too, like some massive, massive albums in there to back it up. But now to sort of, win the rap beef, but then emerge as kind of like in the zeitgeist, the number 1 guy as well too for the year, and take that spot as well, where, again, he's had some hype moments. Like I think 2017, 2018, you could maybe argue he was on top, with Humble as well. But I mean, undeniably 2024 is the year of Kendrick. And he has definitely, propelled himself, I think, commercially and publicly into that conversation of, oh yeah, he's the greatest. And now, like we're saying, he continues to build on the foundation that he's laid to get to that spot. And he's absolutely added a great piece to that in GNX. So, like we said, waxed out murals, Squabble Up, shout out. He actually releases the Broccoli snippet in full. We get the whole song. And I remember, you get the initial part that we all heard, woke up looking for the broccoli, high key, you get through the whole part. And I get so used to just listening to the snippet part of it that I was kind of expecting like a little bit of a pause or like a beat break for a second. And then maybe we'd get back into it. Because again, you listen to the snippet like on a short on YouTube or something, and you get that little delay before it replays again. Because make no mistake, you got to play the snippet like 20 times in a row before, and you still play the song like 20 times in a row. But the snippet, back when it just had first gotten released, you had to keep running the back that thing as many times as possible. But then just to go right into that vocal sample chat, and then the catchiness of just the way he kind of uses some of the same cadence as Not Like Us, because he also didn't put any of the diss tracks on this album as well too. I mean, he made up for it with some of the bars that he was dropping, but didn't include any of the songs that he had already done. But he had used and uses a bunch of the cadences that he does on Not Like Us. He got "Are you my friend? Are you locked in?" He kind of does that thing again. And, this song kind of acts as that sort of, I mean, there's a bunch of other songs that, go super high key as well too. But this is kind of that bang. This is the most slappy banger song on the album. Shout out DJ Head again. But if he's not going to include Not Like Us, I like that he was able to reuse some of those same elements that made that song pretty fun. And that also, like we were saying about this, maybe is there another album potentially that could drop? The fact that this song had similarities made me wonder about that as well too, because it's like, when did he come up with that first? Like, which one did he think of first? Like, was GNX, is this the album? And it's like, he had the cadences in the queue for Squabble Up, and then he was like, well, these are great cadences, I'm just going to use these on Not Like Us as well too while I diss Drake, a little later on after he needs to write that song. Or does he have the Not Like Us song, be his, most successful song of all time, and go, oh, I've got, new flows here that I can use and try again? Because we also see him on Whacked Out Murals as well too. We see him reuse that pause, that Kendrick hitting the pause in his songs. We see him use that silence that he uses in Watch the Party Die, where he's like, I think the things I would do are just, and just kind of breaks off that silence to reinforce the fact that, he would probably do unspeakable things. But, was he thinking of these things in the moment, and then when he drops the album goes, oh, these are actually, cool ideas. Let me keep using them. Or was he, vice versa, pulling out all the stops for the battle, going, I really need to bring my A game here. And these are some of the new things that I've added into my tool bag that I really want to be using. So that does, again, make me curious for if something could potentially be announced on the Super Bowl or around that time. But then he drops Luther, which, again, like we said, the melodic on this, and then SZA as well, too. I mean, the beat. I mean, Soundwave is... I don't know. My list of favorite producers is more uncertain than my list of favorite artists. And not just because, we know less of them, but because, I mean, the sound that you listen to is actually the thing that I think maybe changes more. Like, the lyricism and sort of the vibe you get from an artist and stuff. It's like, what you're getting. You're kind of... And mood does depend on it, but it's like, oh, yeah, maybe... Artists, again, they can give you a wide variety of stuff, and... the good artists, it's like, if I want to get lit, I'm going to listen to these songs. If I want to get chill, I'm going to listen to these songs. If I'm in this mood, I'm going to listen to these songs. So you can kind of stick with the same artist for the lyrics and for the vibe, for the ones that you like, depending on what mood you're in. But the actual sound itself, certain producers obviously have ability to produce certain sound. Mustard, it's like he can do the ratchet stuff like Hit Boy says in that one song with his eyes closed. Like, he's got his sound that he's really good. This guy can do soul really good. This guy can do trap really good, like all that stuff. But when Soundwave is doing these, like, just these super luxurious, sort of hypnotic, vibey things, those beats are, man, that makes me think that he might actually be my favorite producer. Where it's like, if you could just have one producer for their whole catalog. And, Kanye is kind of the cheat for this one because you get, both, and also some of the greatest albums of all time. But it's like, if we take the producer rapper combo off of it and just go like producer or mainly producer, because again, like Hit Boy, where, he does rap now a lot, but he is mainly a producer. Same with Alchemist. We'll see him get on the mic every now and then. But if we're just going, maybe producers where they're not singing on the song whose songs we take, but even then, still Kanye. You get like B and all the common stuff and, Blueprint and all that stuff. But the peak Soundwave tracks go toe-to-toe to me with any other artist out there. And like we were saying with the Corday album, like soul, the Chipmunk soul, any kind of soul sample-y type stuff can be our vibe. And I mean, this is, Luther Vandross soul all the way. But there is, again, sort of a luxurious element that he can add into these vibes that take it from soul to sort of something else. And I don't really know how to describe it best, but that sort of lane that he's really... that Soundwave has really done a great job in is maybe my favorite sort of lane of music. And it's just one of those, like, anytime I hear a song, it's like, is this, my favorite? Like, does he also produce on Loyalty for Rihanna? Like, you hear that initial, just that Bruno Mars reversed sample and that pitched up, and it's like, oh man, Soundwave is absolutely in his bag. I don't know. Is he on Pride as well, too? Let me see if he's on Pride. Maybe he's not. Oh, Pride was Steve Lacy and Top Dog. Shout out. But, did a lot of work on the Mr. Morale album as well, too, which, again, just in terms of a soundscape, is such a unique soundscape compared to with what you get for, not that, To Pimp a Butterfly and all that stuff isn't unique, but I guess I don't see anybody recreating Soundwaves type sound necessarily in the same way that you would see somebody like try to recreate To Pimp a Butterfly, where, that jazz fusion, even like some of the lo-fi and some of the underground type stuff, like there is versions of that, like even MF Doom, like some of the lo-fi jazz type cuts. Like, there is a sound that can be, there's different variations of it, but like, is he on Die Hard? Maybe let's pull up a produced by Soundwave playlist here real quick. Because shout out, these playlists are clutch. I love going through these playlists, the produced by the producer playlists. Some producers, they get on albums, they get their artist page tagged to the album, and you can go through their own artist page and find them that way. But I do love looking at the Spotify playlist as well too, because it gives you obviously those uncredited ones. But looking at some of these tracks, oh yeah, All the Stars, Loyalty, Love. So yeah, I was thinking of Love, Pride or Love. It was one of those two type songs, but he produces on Love, produces on God, XXX. He's on Don't Kill My Vibe. We won't say because we don't want the fam to hear us dropping it this early in the chat. So stay tuned. We'll start swearing later. But Sing About Me Dying of Thirst. He produced on that one. Yeah, I produced on most of the Mr. Morale album, but like Die Hard, Father Time, Count Me Out, Mirror, Hole Up, ADHD, Rigor Mortis, These Walls, The Ways, off the Blank Panther album. I mean, these are all just those super, super rich Kendrick tracks that are just crazy late. I don't know, it's at the late night type, late night drives into the late night other, whatever, but just anything you want to do late night, Soundwave's got you covered. But he once again really, really clutches up. And now we're going to find out that it's like, oh, actually Jack Antonoff was like the major producer of the whole thing, and Kendrick's going to be like, the boys got to be listening to Taylor Swift now because you liked my album, and why wouldn't you like Taylor's album if it's the same producer? But it's like, well, it's not the same guy singing the stuff, not the same subject matter, not the same lyrics. I don't want to hear a song about Jake Gyllenhaal for 10 minutes, but if Kendrick wants to go there, then maybe I'll change my mind. But I mean, Luther was, again, I don't want to, we'll do the list, chat. Stay tuned. The year-end lists are on the way. And we'll do our best to incorporate all this stuff as quickly as we can and work it in there. I mean, we still have time to work this Kendrick one in. We got a couple of weeks here to really let this one savor. And make no mistake, we'll play this one. Do we still have time to get this in the top 100, chat? It may end up in the Spotify Wrapped. It is just going to continue to stay on repeat. But, I mean, SZA as well, too. I knew once I heard the beat that SZA was going to be on this because I had looked up some of the stuff beforehand while I was at work. Make no mistake, if you're listening, we were locked in. You can check the cameras. We were doing a good job, but I hope. Maybe don't check the cameras. I don't want to expose myself. I don't know. Let me replay the day in my mind quick. I don't remember exactly everything we did, but I think for the most part, not bad. But we did look up at one point the feature list for the Kendrick Lamar track list, and we saw that SZA was going to be on the album. So this beat was like, well, if she's not on this beat, then they just don't know where to use her. And of course, I mean, Perfect, the melody, them on the hook, all that stuff. It's absolutely great. And like we're saying, Kendrick's singing is, I've heard people criticize it in the past. I'm actually playing it right now. Can we listen to it again, chat? YouTube, don't take us down. Oh, chat. Kendrick, chat. He did it again. But that song, it's like that song is automatically one of the favorite songs of the year. Such a vibe. And then Man at the Garden, at this point, chat, like we're saying, he's gone places lyrically. The beats are all over. He goes hard with Squabble Up. He chills out with Luther. But we're like, okay, maybe as we get into the album, maybe we'll get some songs where it's like, maybe the Fall Off can still have a chance. Maybe J. Cole's still in this. Mr. Morale, again, some of the maybe more popular songs were stacked in the front, like Die Hard and N95, two of the first three tracks. Two of the first four tracks. So kind of, stacking the hits a little bit in front. But it's just like, oh, is this how Kendrick builds albums? Is he like, I'm giving you kind of the, he's going to give you the cream of the crop pause first, and just really stack the album front heavy. But Man at the Garden, it's like, I mean, I was literally sitting back here on this couch, chat, right when I got off work. The speaker was on, playing Man at the Garden, and I mean, I just sunk back into that couch, chat, because this was the moment where I was like, nobody's catching this guy, chat. Nobody is catching this guy, because nobody is giving the lyrical perspective that this guy is giving. I mean, let's pull up the lyrics here on Man at the Garden. I mean, he kind of did this a little bit on Watch the Party Die. Well, you know, they're different things, but he kind of did a little bit of the 5,000 feet, sort of hovering above everything, looking down and, you know, commenting. But I guess, you know, he's kind of being personal here, talking about. Let's pull the lyrics back up, chat, and see what he's going. But the perspective that he's giving you, it's just nobody else is giving it. Twice emotionally stable, of sound body and tranquility. I deserve it all. Like minds and less enemies. Stock investments, more entities. I deserve it all. VVs and white diamonds. GNX with the backseat reclining. I deserve it all. Put my homes on the beachfront. Flying private. What you eat for lunch. I deserve it all. The respect and the accolades. Lamping on the island. Watching Castaway. I deserve it all. And then when we get into the let's go to the second verse, chat. Let's see. Because my intentions was pure. Even when you wasn't sure. Even with every allure. How much temptation you endured. You probably look for every cure. I said, I deserve it all. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. 6 miles a day, conditioning my win. I said, I deserve it all. I'm showing up as your friend, telling truths better than your next of kin. I deserve it all. I never asked for too much credit. I mean, chat, this is like an old school poem, chat. I feel like they'll be able to just read this one in colleges and in literature classes. You know, there'll be like a rap literature class where people listen to rap and read the lyrics and go, man, this was poetry from back in the day. You know, like Shakespeare, but it's Kendrick Lamar. Or Kanye. He always talks about being modern day Shakespeare. And he was there for a minute. But telling truths better than your next kin. I deserve it all. Seeking validation just for the aesthetics. I deserve it all. I see you as a human first, even when you didn't understand your worth. I deserve it all. It's innate to mind my business, writing words trying to elevate these children. That's why I deserve it all. Pray for those who prayed against me. Every reason why my ancestors sent me. I deserve it all. Put a smile on my mama. Good health and good karma. She says it all. 100 murals out in Compton. Remember me, I kept my promise. Yeah, we deserve it all. Better life for my daughter. Made my son take it further than his father. Yeah, he deserves it all. A close relationship with God whispers to me every time I close my eyes. He say, I deserve it all. Keep these. We can't say any of that one, chat. But keep all my blessings faithfully. Keep my essence contagious. That's okay with me. I burn this bee down. Don't you play with me or stay with me. I'm crashing out right now. No one stay with me. I did it with integrity and... do we do the Pat McAfee? The naysayers? Just wait and see. More blood be spilling. It's just pain to me. Dangerous. Nothing changed with me. Still got pain in me. Flip a coin. What? The shameless? Want the shameless me or the famous me? That's a bad read, chat. Flip a coin. Want the shameless me or famous me? How annoying does it anger me to know the lames can speak on the origins of the game I breed? That's insane to me. It's important. I deserve it all because it's mine. That's why you think you deserve the greatest of all time. I mean, when you're listening to this man rap, chat, you're just like, there's nobody has still continued to further their perspective like this, where, you know, even if you look at Tyler on the last album, and again, the last album was great. Like, we'll prove it to you that we think it's great when we do our year-end list. But he has said that Mr. Morale has inspired this album. And you go, oh, I mean, that's fantastic. You love it to see. I mean, we do. Me and Sam are the same way. We operate, based on the inspiration of others. A lot of people work that way. But Kendrick, I mean, these are the rare few where you go, oh, Kendrick is truly original. And even with the perspectives that he's giving you on like Watch the Party to Die and all these other stuff, it's clear that Tyler is, again, influenced by Mr. Morale. You go, okay, I'm going to be open, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to kind of do my own version of that. But you can't just like do your own version of open and honesty. Like, I don't know if you can go into it and just go, okay, I'm going to open up. And maybe, Kendrick did that as well too with Mr. Morale. He's like, this is going to be my most vulnerable album ever. Or, we have to go back and see what he was saying in the pre-run up to that. Or, if that's just the album became what it became, and it was the most vulnerable album that he ended up dropping to date. And I guess we're not saying this with Tyler specifically as well too, but when you get to a point as well with some of the artists, when you try to copy somebody and you try to further it and you just kind of do it more extreme, but again, you're not necessarily, there's not an element of originality to it or pushing it in a different way. And Tyler, with the production and with his story as well too, he personalizes his story and adds a perspective in a way where he's talking about how he wants, it's his dynamic of what he wants his life with potential children and marriage and all that stuff to look like, not just necessarily the, relationship and worldly traumas that Kendrick is dealing with. But when you go, okay, I'm going to be and try to do this in the same way, let me be just more extreme and let me do a harsher version of it or whatever. And maybe you're losing out on, certain quality points because again, certain, just certain things because you're not focused on originality, but rather maybe getting into this certain view and getting this certain thing out. And again, like we're saying, Tyler's album, he pushes boundaries in enough way, but you also do see the influences and see how it is kind of a spawn of another thing. Like, I mean, you see it in comedy all the time, and comedians talk about how when they first start doing stand-up, they're usually doing an impression of, one of their favorite stand-ups, and you have to kind of find your own voice and become your own man. And it's not that, other artists don't find their own voice, but you go, oh, okay, this guy is still like in this lane of comedian where you go, we could put all these comedians sort of together where it's like the joke comedians and the storytelling comedians. And, maybe this guy does better in improv and this guy's kind of a sketch guy. And you kind of have all your different categories and you develop out into your different ways. But then you get the guy where it's like, oh yeah, Shane Gillis is like, he is actually doing the original thing. And he is like actually just like following the voice in his head. And he's just like, what is funny? I think this is funny. I'm going to put this down and I'm going to send this out there. And then you get the guy that's like, oh, I see that I can do like maybe like a sort of like a right wing dumbed down. And I guess, not just put politics on anybody. Right? You get what we're saying? Like, oh, I can do sort of this, maybe this style of comedy, but then you're doing the style of it and you're not doing, what comedy is supposed to be. And it's supposed to be funny. And you can get that in music where you can go, oh, now you're doing the style of music and you're not actually creating what you should be creating. And you should just be creating music. And it seems like Kendrick is just constantly creating music. And, he does have influences. And, you would go to, you have Hey Now after Man at the Garden, but you would go to like Reincarnated after that. And you go, oh, yeah, Tupac beat. He's remixing the Tupac beat, paying homage to the West Coast. I should have pointed this out as well too, but with the, the double C's and Whacked Out Mural and the double B's and Squabbled Up, I mean, the screwed in ones will get what that means. But as he just continues to try to unify the West Coast through all this different symbolism, and it's like, yeah, West Coast, his paying homage, his idols, Tupac, one of the legends, he's pushing it forward in that way. And he's still able to like, you go, oh yeah, he's still like influenced by Tupac in this way. I think his lyricism on that song is a little like Tupac-y was sort of and he's always, they're both like grand messagey type lyricists. So it's always kind of similar in that. But it does feel, maybe it's just the beat as well too, being that kind of track. It's like put him on a Tupac beat. He feels like Tupac, but it did feel like he wrote to that beat, maybe a little bit more appropriately for something that Tupac would write for. Some of the aggressive cadences as well too, and maybe not necessarily the full-on aggressive cadence that he used. I mean, Tupac would for sure get, definitely go super aggressive like that, but it did feel like that whole song you could go, okay, yeah, he's paying homage. He still takes influences from his idols in certain ways, but you go, yeah, for what Kendrick is going for overall, like there is a originality to him, and there is always a continued evolution for him, and he is, again, always, just like we're saying, I feel like doing what is pure and right to him from an artistic standpoint. And I mean, and that's hard for anybody to do, Chad. That's hard for us to do. It's hard to go, it's hard for anybody to go, what is it like that I'm truly trying to communicate versus, even if it's like responding to a story, like you see a headline of a sports thing and you go, oh, I want to respond to that headline. And yeah, that is a pure emotion, a pure reaction, a pure thing. But it's a headline that's already out there. It's sort of a greater story. It's adding to the conversation is never a bad thing. But you still want to go, oh, at the end of the day, what is my perspective on a thing or whatever, and just as a a general thing to try to compare. But it's like anything trying to find like your original thought and your original voice in that is always going to be super hard. It just always seems like Kendrick is able to constantly pull that off in his music, and it's absolutely why he's making that push toward the greatest of all time. And it's just, I'm trying to think of like, because even Eminem now, like Eminem had to go back and like try to copy himself. He's copying Slim Shady with this last album and like trying to recreate sort of his old sound and try to get back to something that worked. Jay-Z always did a pretty good job. Like 444 is, new producer. I feel like, definitely a step forward, but it's still like an old school soul sample-y type of thing. It's not, you could definitely play some of these songs next to the Blueprint songs and it definitely all makes sense. But lyrically for him, it was definitely a step forward. But, Kendrick Lamar, constant evolution, constantly producing, and constantly delivering on the hype chat. He did it again. He absolutely did it again. Let us know what you guys think about this album. Like we said, the reaction doesn't stop here. We will continue to bump this album many, many, many times. All night, all day. It'll be on at the gym tomorrow, chat. It'll be on in the shower. It'll be on during breakfast. We probably will play it during the college games tomorrow as well, too. We may go to the store just to play this album. Be like, well, what college games are on right now? We got the Ohio State-Indiana game a little bit later. We save it. Is that a noon game? That actually might be a noon game, chat. Let's double check. Then do we go to the store after that? Oh, yeah. Early game, chat. Indiana, Ohio State. Okay, so we play the album at the gym, play the album for breakfast, play the album, or I guess gym, shower, breakfast, and then watch the game, and then go to the store during the other games and listen to the album while we're at the store. Might be the plan. But regardless, we will play it as much as possible. We'll do lists, we'll do rankings for the album itself, for the album in the greater course of the year. But let us know what you guys think, chat. Let us know what your reactions are to the new Kendrick Lamar album. Warriors up by 5 with 20 seconds left, chat. The games have zoomed by. The Warriors on the verge of getting a win on the back of Andrew Wiggins. 30 points. 9 of 14 from the field. Steph, 19 points. 6 of 13 from the field. And Podziemski adding an 11. Buddy Hield with 12. Not a great Buddy Hield shooting night. But, even Buddy Hield, Chad, that's what we're saying with the Warriors. Like, this is the luxury you have. Even Buddy Hield can have a down shooting night and be the fourth guy in bench minutes. Buddy Hield, who was the new Klay Thompson, the new Splash Brother, the savior of the team. Is Buddy Hield the best shooter on the Warriors now? Oh. It's like, yeah, if he is having an off night, we don't even need him. We have rotations. We have guys that we can put in and make it work. I mean, this is crazy, Chad. This is their bench right now. Should we just go through their team? Curry, 33 minutes. Green, 30. Wiggins, 28. Jackson Davis, 18. And Lindsey Waters, 15. That's their starters. Pods, 21. Kuminga, 20. Moody, 19. Hield, 19. Peyton, 16. Looney, 14. Kyle Anderson, 5. There's not even this many minutes in a game. It's not even possible to play that many minutes. They're going to need overtime just to sub in some of these bench guys. Murphy, the 3, it rims in. It rims in with 12 seconds, chat. The Pelicans cut it to 2. Wow, the Pelicans cut it to 2, chat. And the Warriors are going to get the ball. 11.8, inbounding. Do they advance it after this timeout? They call a timeout to drop the play. So up by 2 now. Classic situation. Do the Pels foul? I guess you don't foul and give him the free throw. Go up 3, 4. It's probably going to be Steph. And those are automatic makes. But down 2 with 12 seconds left. Well, yeah, I guess they're going to have to foul to get the ball back. Sorry, chat. I was pulling up another game. Distracted. We're dual screening it again. Back in lockstep. Well, what happened is we missed the end of the Celtics Wiz game, chat. The Celtics pulled away in the fourth quarter. Who would have guessed it, chat? Who would have guessed it? Brown with 31 and 11. Tatum with 16. Derek White with 10. Holiday with 16. Hauser with 13. Kuzma with 21. Poole with 23. Sarr with 6, chat. Alex Sarr with 6 points. 9 rebounds? You love the effort. Only 3-9 from the field. -9. Box score up and down. Plus minus. But Coulibaly, -17. Yikes. Kispert, -17. Coulibaly, -17, and he led the game in minutes? Interesting. But shout out. Celtics saved themselves from embarrassment. Milwaukee currently taking it to the Pacers? Milwaukee getting back on track a little bit? Or Giannis going to Kendrick Lamar all-time levels, carrying this team. Oh, and the Pelicans, chat, we got distracted with drama. We're doing a bad job with the lot of the watch party. Something just went down, and we don't know what it is. The Pelicans are challenging the play. The Warriors don't have any more points on the board, and 10 seconds just ran off the clock. So something has happened. The Warriors turned it over? The Pelicans think so? Oh, the Pelicans got to look, chat. We don't have sound on. Maybe we should find out what's going on. Yes, they're challenging for a foul call right now on Draymond, or on the Pelicans. Wow, so they're going to... Draymond draws the foul, and he's going to get overturned. Unfortunate. Draymond can't have any luck either way going on the fouls. But Bulls also taking down the Hawks. Up 16. Jalen Johnson with just a casual 19 and 12. But unfortunately, not enough to get past the vaunted Chicago Bulls. LaVine with 20. An incredibly balanced performance tonight from the starting lineup, chat. LaVine with 20. Desunu with 18. Vooch with 16. Kobe White with 17. And Giddey with 16 as well. All 5 of the starters with 15-plus points. All of them 50% from the field as well, too, except for Kobe White. He is 5-15, not necessarily shooting the ball well, but 57% for the game with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter. 45% as a team for the Atlanta Hawks. On the other side of that, they've also got Smith and Terry on the bench with 13 and 12 points as well, too. So if those guys get a couple of more shots, they could be a little bit more closer to the 15-point mark as well. And maybe they'd have 7 guys at 15 points. Wow. Be close to a record, chat. And the Rockets up 30. 26, sorry. We'll give the Blazers fans every point they possibly can have. It's not looking good. 26 points. Getting outdueled by Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks going to put up a 30-piece tonight. It's that type of night, chat. Dylan Brooks may as well get it out of the way now while nobody's paying attention. Kendrick Lamar's on. Draymond Green going to the line with a chance to seal the game. Hits the first, chat. 3 seconds left. Up by 3. Here it is. For the win. 4 points with 3 seconds left. There's no way. He missed it, chat. And they get their own rebound. They get their own rebound. The Pelicans foul. But there's 0.4 left. Wow, chat. A rough start for the Pelicans on the season. Continues. They can't even get an offensive rebound. Again, you're down 3. You got to go the length of the court. It's a tough situation anyways. But, you got to get yourself as close to winning as you possibly can. And then maybe you'll actually get the win. And they can not even secure the offensive rebound to end it. Draymond misses it. And that will make that game go final. And there we go. Golden State clinches West Group C with a Denver win tonight. So we've got, is it Denver-Dallas tonight, chat? The Mavs versus the Nuggets. Luka, is Jokic back yet? Oh boy, chat. Oh boy, this could not be good if Luka or Jokic is not playing. Oh, cut right to the game. Are we going right in? Let's see if we get Jokic here. But if the Mavs beat the Nuggets, I mean, the Warriors give them the Western Conference Group C for the playoff cup. NBA Cup. Emeritus Cup. The Mike Breen Cup. Does anybody know what the personal reasons that left Jokic out for were? We don't. The man is just a complete mystery. But he is back tonight, chat. Okay, Jokic is back. That one will be fun to watch. Can't be mad with Jokic and Luka. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back for a couple minutes, wrap this up, watch a little bit of this game. Wrap it up, pause. And then, yeah, we will see you guys on the other side. Don't go anywhere. We got a Luka-Jokic matchup, at least a quarter or two, in a second. Right back. We're back. I'm a fool, chat. I forgot Luka got hurt the other day. He's out for a week. No Luka right now for Dallas. We were all concerned about Jokic being back. And turns out we're not getting the matchup anyways. But we still got Kyrie. Still got Derek Lively, Klay Thompson. Yikes, chat. There's a reason these two guys are two of the leading MVP candidates. Most valuable. Not a lot of value around them. Definitely increases their play. Chris Braun getting stuffed by Derek Lively to start the game, but they're going to call a foul. He's going to get free throws, and they said he's been double digits every game so far? Wow, shout out Christian Braun. Christian LeBron. Keeping that up. Only about 4,000 games away. Or whatever. So I guess they decided to post up PJ Washington to start. Getting stuffed by Peyton Watson. Derek Lively flying around tonight. Getting some blocks. They can just go ahead and cancel this game. The Curious George court. A yellow court is crazy, chat. A yellow court. No Luka in a yellow court. There's no need to play this. Just it's 9-3. Give the Mavs the win, surprisingly, and let's get out of here. Braun for 3. Leading the Nuggets in scoring. He has all their points, chat. Let's see. Did the Sixers go down tonight as well? Ooh, the Sixers. Somebody may be going down on the... Oh, pause. They got the win. McCain with a 30-piece, chat. Is that his first 30-piece? So who've gotten 30 pieces for the rookies so far? McCain and Connect? We need Castle to get in that list as soon as possible. Maxey with 26. Outdueling Cam Johnson's 37 and Cam Johnson's 18. Ben Simmons with the 2, 4, and 4 on 1 of 4 shooting. Minus 20 for the plus minus. Just a classic Ben Simmons line. You want to talk about consistency. The two most consistent people right now, Kendrick and Ben Simmons. On different sides of the scale. But shout out to Philly picking up their 3rd win of the season. So now Washington is officially in front of the Cooper Flag sweepstakes as they are now the only 2-win team left in the NBA. But like we're saying, the Sixers, I guess it's those top 3 teams that all have the same odds. So the Wizards have the same odds anyways. Nothing has changed. Disregard earlier chat. Nothing has changed because of tonight. But point still stands of them being, near the top of the draft, getting in that prime position. Pause. Otherwise, looks like the other games are about to wrap. And then Kings Clippers will be starting up in a second. But shout out to Daniel Jones, man. R.I.P. The man got cut today by the New York Giants. They said that they have had enough. They need to go another direction at quarterback. And this is honestly just the most depressing type of release, chat. The one where it's like, we need to move on, but we don't have anything to move on to. It's got to end the breakup. It just has to happen, chat. At least if you break up and you've got somebody else in the sights, it helps soften the blow a little bit for sure. But, if you just break up and you got nothing left, then you're left hanging. It's no fun. Well, do we want to say we've been on both sides? It just, you play life out, and it is what it is. You definitely, everybody lives all the scenarios. It's just how it happens. But, sometimes you break up and you have a quarterback on the bench, or you have a young guy in the pipes ready to go, or you have your young guy, but you also have your veteran, and you go, we know, like you do what the Colts try to do with Flacco, and you go, at least we have a plan for why we're trying to bench this guy. Like, not that the Colts had a plan, but you go, at least we have a plan for the backup. Like, we know that Flacco can try to get us to the playoffs. Like, the Giants, make no mistake, there's no plan for Tommy DeVito. It's just the plan for Tommy DeVito is to get them Shedeur Sanders and try to get them the number 1 pick in the draft, because that's obviously where you need to go. But it's also like when it gets so bad that you can't try to get that number 1 pick with Daniel Jones. And I guess Daniel Jones did technically, request to be request to be cut, as what the reports are saying. And there was talks about, are they going to bench him? Is it going to be, is his time in New York done, whether or not he's in the locker room or not? Is his time on the field come to an end? But the fact that they're like, yeah, we're ready to just move on now and we'll solve it later is how it's not good, chat. So shout out to Daniel Jones. Make no mistake, he got the bag. He got a couple of fat paycheck years in there, for sure. He got did he get the franchise tag? He definitely got that. Well, no, did they decline his 5th-year option? I don't remember. Let's take a look. Let's see where Daniel Jones is sitting at right now, because he'll get like Victor Trubisky. Somebody will pick him up as a backup and keep him around, but that's where he's going to be, right, chat? He's going to be a backup. Nobody is bringing him in as potential guy, right? Is there any team that would want to take a chance on Daniel Jones? And not from the backup sense. That's cheating. I feel like, if the Colts were in a different spot, if it's not just, we hadn't just been through trauma with Anthony Richardson, if we were a little more secure in our relationship with Richardson, maybe we'd bring in a third party. But since we're just now smoothing things out, maybe we'll go ahead and let that develop before we start taking in potential, what if this guy does, whatever. But you could do that. Or you could just go, at least he is a solid backup. But Daniel Jones is a good backup, right, chat? Is that the take, really? People are going to be like, well, the Giants, what a disastrous situation. How this Daniel Jones era. It's going to be a lot of retrospective on the Daniel Jones era in New York. But what I say, chat, is the NFL just gained a great backup. We're always complaining about quarterback depth. We're always complaining about how, these teams with these good backups, they go, how great is this? We just love it that our guy can come in and be competent for the rest of the game or a game or two if we need it. And make no mistake, chat, Daniel Jones is going to be, there we go. Let's take the hot step even one step further. The hot step, a hot take. We're doing a hot step forward on the hot take. Daniel Jones might be the best backup quarterback in the league. As I'm saying that, I'm just going to try to do a quick reminder to make sure I'm not thinking or not forgetting of anybody super obvious. Is there a rookie sitting that I'm not thinking about, chat? Drake May is now playing. So Drake May can't be a backup. I guess the Raiders have the most equal quarterback battle class between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. But what are we talking? Andy Dalton, chat? Is Flacco on the list of best backups? Winston? Fields? Ooh, I guess Fields. So Fields, Daniel Jones, Jameis Winston. We're really developing a nice little backup class of quarterbacks in the NFL. It's heartwarming to see. And I think Daniel Jones is going to be a great addition to that. You've also got, Tyrod Taylor is still in New York, right? I don't even know who the backups are for some of these teams. I'm just trying to look at the teams and remember who. Like, who's Baker Mayfield's backup? Kyle Trask? Maybe Trask. San Francisco. Do the Rams have Garoppolo? Is Garoppolo still count? I think my Garoppolo fling is over as well too. I think that ship has, he's a backup, but I think that ship has sailed. Even though I guess would I have a fling for Garoppolo? Would Garoppolo be a backup fling? I wouldn't be mad about that. I guess Trubisky's kind of high up on the list as well, too. Hendon Hooker in Detroit? But Daniel Jones now becomes a great backup. What if Daniel Jones to Baltimore, chat? Backup Lamar Jackson? He can run all the options. You know, he can be the running quarterback. I guess they don't run an option offense. But, you know, he can be the mobile quarterback that Lamar is if Lamar gets hurt. You have that insurance. The guys are used to a quarterback that's running around, playmaking, creating for guys, throwing down the field. That's Daniel Jones, right? He goes in, backs up Lamar. It's perfect. McCarthy, I guess the Sam Darnold McCarthy, how that plays out. We'll see if Sam Darnold wins a starting role and continues his label as a starting quarterback. Mariota, one of the better backups. Does he go to Houston, chat? Like realistically, where does he go? Like, not even a team that's like, do we need a random shot at a quarterback? Like, I guess like Oakland, for example, if they wanted to just say that's for something, their draft pick doesn't get as high as they need to go, or they just wanted to do something totally different for the rest of the season just because it's not working already and because they're already losing. Like, a team like that, maybe you could see. You know, Dallas, does he stay in the division and go to Dallas, chat? But they have Trey Lance, so it's like, well, why not just play Trey Lance? I think maybe peak Trey Lance. In my head, peak Trey Lance is better than peak Daniel Jones, but we probably never see either of those guys anyways. He just goes across the street, stays in the stadium, goes to the Jets. That is not necessarily exciting. Carolina is not going to do anything with him. But if he was a backup on a team, I don't know if a Super Bowl team would bring him in as a backup. Who's Kansas City's backup right now? Doesn't Kansas City has Wentz, right? And they went out and got Wentz. So I don't know if they would necessarily part with Wentz to bring in Daniel Jones. Would you make that move, chat? Would you cut Carson Wentz to bring in Daniel Jones? It's a tough question you have to ask yourself. I don't know. Is everybody set at their backup spot? Philly's got that. Doesn't Philly have a rookie go? They have Kenny Pickett. But I thought they also had like somebody that played well in preseason. Maybe too. Maybe Kenny Pickett didn't play well in preseason. Somebody outplayed him. Kenny Pickett was QB3. Am I remembering that correctly, chat? Let's see who Philly QB2 is. I don't know why him staying in the NFC East is the most obvious option for us, but Cowboys could use a starter. Philly with Hurts, you know, could be a potential backup spot for him. Hurts, mobile quarterback. You could push with Danny Jones. Tanner McKee. So it's Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett, and Tanner McKee, but I don't know who the 2 and the 3 is for the QB there. But the Chargers, Houston, Arizona. Maybe Arizona, chat, just as a backup. Just because they're having a good season. If they want to try to keep up the potential, let's try to get in the playoffs. You know, again, as a backup, I think Daniel Jones is about the best you could do. So just always trying to do the best you could do is what you need to be trying for if you're going to win, obviously. So we could see that potentially for Arizona. I like the idea of him in Baltimore, chat, replacing Lamar. Not replacing Lamar, but backing up Lamar and replacing him if he needs to. If Lamar ever gets hurt. If the Ravens are locked in playoff position week 18 and Lamar needs to take a break in the second half, put Daniel Jones out there. We'll see him again, Chad. Don't worry. He'll get second life. The UFL, one of those leagues is going strong. So he may have a chance to break in there as well, too. But Tommy DeVito, for now, will be handling business in New York. And who knows? Maybe there was the DeVito crime family that... Is there a DeVito crime family? Maybe they were the ones that... Hey, New York, you need to get Daniel Jones out of the starting lineup. Is that how Mafia guys talk? I think that's how pizzeria guys talk, not Mafia guys. Is there... What's the overlap between the Papa John's and the Mafia? How much overlap between the lasagna and the killings? The Italian accent gets worse and worse the more you try, chat. Jamal Murray. Hopefully he gets better the more and more he tries. He's 2 for 4 for 3 tonight. Will he return to normal form? Dallas, though, without Luka and with Jokic for Denver, I mean, they're winning right now, chat. They're winning by 6. They're going to pull a 3. Oh, that was a little bit of a bad shot. So if he had made that, definitely would have been, hot start territory for the Mavs. Good ball movement, though, by the Nuggets, as you would expect. The little Jokic to Strother to Westbrook. I think it was Jokic to Strother to Jokic to Westbrook to Strother to Watson to layup. Not even touching the floor, chat. Murray with the save. Now they're pushing. Westbrook, chat. And Westbrook can definitely move the ball. I mean, we know Westbrook's a good passer, but the pick and roll, last second sort of bailout, my shot's not there. This is the only really thing that I can do is make that pass to get me out of the situation. Like that type of pass versus the skip the ball. It gets swung to me, keep it swinging, find the open guy, one dribble over here. Like, I mean, again, not that Westbrook is not incapable of doing those things, but we're seeing him do them in Denver a lot. We haven't necessarily seen him be an off-ball, secondary playmaker, keep the ball moving type guy. And Kleba fouls Jokic, sending him to the line. So I think that will about do it for us tonight, chat. Like I said, we've got Indiana, Ohio State tomorrow. We have never cheered for Indiana like we will cheer for them in this game against Ohio State. But it will happen, and we hope the Hoosiers get the victory. So shout out to the Hoosiers. Shout out to Michigan as well, too. Shout out to Michigan basketball, which is, Dusty May was talking some talk a little bit before the season starts. You love to see it. And, of course, some easy games to open the schedule. You gotta warm up, and you can only play who's in front of you. But they're 4-1, chat. Not bad. We'll see what happens when we get into regular season play against some of these real teams. But, you can even tell in these non-conference games, some of these early games, how a team's going to fare. I mean, just by how dominant they're going to be, because even going into last season, you would look at these games and you'd be like, I forget exactly who Michigan was playing, but we blanked out last season. It was not good. But you look at some of these games and you go, this team is like New Fresno Backstate College, and we're winning by 7 points. How are we losing in the first half to across the road University? It just doesn't make sense. So the fact that, against like Tarleton State, they're able to go out and get a dominant performance, a massive win, you love to see it. You love to see Dusty May. Infectious energy. And Mavs still up by 8. I mean, Najee Marshall just driving to the lane with ease, laying it in. Jokic just getting switches and getting fouls on entry passes is what's keeping him in the game right now. He's going to the free throw line back-to-back possessions, or at least back-to-back possessions that we looked. We're obviously not here for the play-by-play, but I believe the last 2 possessions he got fouled. Strother with the handoff. We're looking for a big Strother season. Maybe a second-team all-rookie from Strother? You'd really love it if you were a Nuggets fan. Strother, Porter Jr., Westbrook, Jokic, and who is the other guy out there? I can't see who's in the corner right now, chat. But he goes in on Kleba. Jokic does. Who's 23 for the Nuggets, chat? That's not Peyton Watson. Who's out there on the court right now for the Nuggets? We're having a who he play for 12 games in? What is happening, chat? 15 games in? We got to be locked and loaded at this point. Oh, it is. Is it Peyton Watson? Am I tripping? He was hunched over in the corner, chat. Couldn't see the jersey. Oh, is that Trey Alexander? Is that our guy Trey from Creighton? Is he guarding Spencer Dinwiddie, chat, on defense? Strother poking it away from PJ Washington. And then Westbrook finishes off the hustle, gets the ball, forces the turnover. Oh, Porter with the wicked cross, chat. Hits Najee with the wicked right to left, left to right. And then Jokic buries a three. So now the Nuggets have cut it to 2. 30 seconds. They're back within the 1 possession. Jokic, 11 points, 4 for 6. So I don't think Christian Braun is leading the team in scoring any longer. Dinwiddie responds. That's the problem when you're playing the Mavs. You have Jokic, but the Mavs have Dinwiddie. And Dinwiddie can hit a shot. Strother fouled on the three-pointer. That's a bad foul by Hardy. That's just a bad. That's at least make it look like an accident, chat. Why even close out anymore, chat? Guys are too good. Fouls are too risky. Just do the... What does the Boston guy have? The Luke Leap? The Cornet closeout? I forget what it's called. But everybody just do that. I think his field goal percentage guarded on the Luke Leap is just about as high as, you know, an average guard on a wing shooting threes. And he doesn't get fouls called doing that way. So if you factor in the fouls and the free throws made in addition to the three-pointers made and balance that out with like the percentage of defense, I feel like Cornet not having the fouls in there would make him almost a better three-point defender just by virtue of that. Like, how many points have you given up based on three-pointer? Well, yeah, maybe there's like a shot or two that went in that wouldn't have because he wasn't as close as he should have been, but he also didn't foul as many times. So I feel like it's all the same, chat. It all evens out. He's thinking levels ahead, and nobody gets hurt. Everybody's safe. So the Mavs reviewing the play with 1 second left in the first quarter. Jason Kidd, I mean, vital play, chat. You can't just let the quarter run out. What are you going to do with 1 second left in a quarter, chat? What's the point of reviewing anything? Oh, that's right. It was that three-pointer. Why is he challenging this, chat? He's announcing. So they're calling the foul on Hardy, of course, on Strother on the shot. He gets him on the arm. He also gets him on the leg. I don't know if they're chalking up Strother swaying into him for that one. But, I mean, he takes out his lower body as well, too. I mean, to me, he does it in the shooter's space versus the shooter occupying the defender's space in this instance. He does kick that leg out a little bit. But he does like a split jump on the shot more so than I think kicks his leg out. And he just so happens to run into him. So like I said, I think he's kind of in his own space. I think the defender definitely invades his space. So he needs a foul called on whatever contact happens. But not good by Hardy. And the amount of times guys leave their feet on a contest, especially if you're, the odds that you block a three-pointer if you're the same size or similar size to a guy is, I feel like, fairly low if you don't have that great angle right away. You're not just rarely going to jump up and knock it out of the air. So just try to close out to the face, get a hand up, don't foul. Keep it easy. I mean, close out. They always, say guard the ball, but you know what we're saying. Close out like you may not be closing out to block the shot. You may be closing out to impair the vision. But regardless, that is the first quarter of Nuggets Mavs. Mavs up 2. I think that will do it for us tonight, chat. Shout out the main man, Kendrick Lamar, for keeping us entertained over this weekend with a new album. Like we said, absolutely fantastic. I mean, we can say one of the best of the year. I mean, we'll get more specific into the list once we get to that point here in a couple of weeks. But for now, we'll just continue to keep bumping it, keep enjoying it. And again, let us know what you guys think of the album. Make sure to comment, chat, jump on. We'll be on Sunday night talking football. So, hey, if you guys got more thoughts on the Kendrick Lamar album, Sunday night when we're talking these games and watching some NFL action, make no mistake, feel free to jump in the chat and we will have a good time like always. So if you guys want to tune in for the good time, is that a pause? We will be here at the Rem and Sam YouTube channel. Subscribe if you guys haven't. We're on Spotify, Apple. We're on the podcast platforms as well, too. We're also out on social media, Instagram, TikTok. We're on the internet, people, at Rem and Sam Podcast. You can find us. We will be there. We will be watching games, hanging out, having a good time. And for now, we'll be bumping that Kendrick Lamar album because it is a banger. So thank you guys for jumping on tonight, chat. Be back Sunday. Be back. Just stay tuned, chat. You never know when we'll be back. We may jump on tomorrow night. Who knows? Maybe we'll just do a Kendrick surprise release today. We might surprise drop tomorrow. There's only one way to find out, and that is to subscribe. But like I said, that's it for us.